Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we'll get started in a minute. Good evening and welcome to Coop Drive, St. Tammany Parish Council meeting, Thursday, July 8th, 2021. I want to ask everyone if they wish to speak on any item on the agenda, please fill out a card. And whether you're for or against, if you wish not to speak and fill out a card, just check that off and your name will be read and put in the record on any agenda. If you do not have a card, you will not be allowed to speak. Okay? Just for the process, a 3-minute time limit is established for each member of the public wishing to speak for or against an item on the agenda, except appeals. We have no appeals tonight, so therefore, anyone that wishes to speak will have 3 minutes at the podium to speak on the topic that they wish. To ensure that all speakers are heard, please hold cheers and applause. Anyone who wishes to place a card in the record but does not wish to speak at the podium may fill it out, like I mentioned, and check the box. Thank you. Mr. Taladano, I'm sorry, Mr. Canulet, I would have waited till you sat down. I would have waited, you know what I mean? I feel bad. I think I'm going to start it over again. All right. Anyway, Mr. Taladano, would you lead us in the pledge?
Sure.
And Mr. Fitzgerald, would you say the invocation, sir?
Sure.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us pray. Lord, we come before you tonight with hearts full of good intentions. We want to remain humble in your work. Let us be conciliatory one with the other. Let us try to make decisions that are good for our people. We love the parish, and let's express that in the love we have for each other as we move through this democratic process. Thank you for the time we have together demonstrating this process. We want to do everything in your name and give you all the credit, Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Mr. Lorino?
Yes, sir.
While we're up,
Yes, sir.
we lost Mr. Fitzmaurice.
Yes, we did. Yes, sir.
He was very prevalent in this parish along with the state. He's going to be greatly missed and did a lot of good work. I'd like to make sure we mention a nice shout out for him tonight.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Let's just take a minute. Thank you. And Chris, he went all the way to ripe age of 99, if I'm not mistaken.
He was.
Yeah.
You ain't got to worry about that, Lorino.
I'm not going to get that far. Okay, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Dean?
Here.
Mr. Fitzgerald? Ms. Casabon? Mr. Lorino?
Yeah.
Mr. Taladano? Ms. Tanner? Mr. Davis? Mr. Canulet? Mr. Mike Smith? Ms. O'Brien? Mr. Stefancic? Mr. Bender? Mr. Airy? And Mr. TJ Smith. We have a quorum.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. President, Mr. Cooper?
Good evening, members of the Parish Council, members of our citizenry here in St. Tammany Parish. Welcome to our meeting this evening. I'm honored to as I do every month, proclaim a Employee of the Month. And tonight I'm very honored to present Emily Hurtle of Animal Services as Employee of the Month. And I'm going to ask Emily to come up here and join me while I present this. Thank you, Emily. There are so many deserving employees, and it's a very difficult task each and every month to select an employee, but particularly so this month. Emily began her service to St. Tammany Parish in October of last year and is the Animal Rescue Coordinator for the Department of Animal Services. And whereas Emily posts daily photos and heartwarming stories to Facebook and other social media outlets, works with scores of rescue agencies and individuals, and coordinates the relocation of our animals through Wings of Rescue flights, all in an effort to place animals into loving, forever homes. That's forever homes. Whereas Emily uses every technique in her arsenal to accomplish this task and even appears monthly on Fox 8 and on Pet Connect on YouTube to show off our animals and to give the viewers helpful advice for animal care. And whereas she is professional and conscientious and is willing to go above and beyond to save our animals, and since her arrival, Animal Services' live release rate has increased to 98% in the month of May. Wow. 98%. And whereas Emily Hurtle is an outstanding employee, performs her duties in an exemplary manner, and is dedicated and committed to serving the citizens of St. Tammany. Now, therefore, I, Michael B. Cooper, Parish President of the Great St. Tammany Parish, do hereby recognize the hard work, dedication, and accomplishments of Emily Hurtle as Employee of the Month, July 2021, and encourage all employees of St. Tammany Parish to thank her for her contributions and commitment to St. Tammany Parish. Congratulations, Emily. Congratulations. Now look, before we do that, we're going to take a picture. Please say a few words, okay?
Absolutely. When I first heard that this job, rescue coordinator, was even a position, I couldn't believe it. It was like it had been tailor-made for me. So now, even on the best days and the worst days, there is nothing else that I would rather be doing. Absolutely nothing. It's true what they say. When your job is your passion, you will never work a day in your life. Thank you.
Emily? Thank you, Emily. And I also want to acknowledge that she is supported here by Rob Bremer, Acting Director, Assistant Director Penny Brunies, and Dr. Lisa Johnson, our full-time veterinarian at Animal Services, among others. Thank you all for being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it, sir. Members of the council, if you don't mind, I'd like to go to ordinance for adoption number 27. It's in conjunction with what we just heard from Miss Emily, and if you don't mind, I'd like to go to that. Seeing no objection, I'll read it. Number 27, ordinance calendar number 6708, ordinance to amend the Parish Code of Ordinance, Chapter 10, Article 4, Animal Control and Welfare relative to the management of community cat population and the modification of the standards for invisible fencing. I have one card. Doctor, I can't make out the last.
Catherine Wilbert.
Wilbert? Wilbert? Dr. Wilbert?
I just wanted to thank the council for this opportunity, and I'm just so glad. I've worked in this parish for a very long time and worked with these guys with Animal Services, and just so glad to see we're at this place where we're becoming a much more compassionate and humane parish. And just wanted to say that this ordinance is a very important missing piece. You see how far we've come. A 98% save rate is huge. That's amazing, and that's a step in the right direction to make us like one of, the other very successful parishes and states that have achieved a no-kill status. And this ordinance, in protection, particularly the part in protection of community cats, we have proven nationwide that it is one of the most important missing pieces to most humanely control a population that is the most out of control. And it is the piece that'll make the biggest difference because it's the missing link in the whole program that we've instituted here. And it has been proven over and over again where there's been colonies of cats, excuse me, that the trap and kill method, as much as people chase that and try to eradicate populations that way, it doesn't work. And there's proof now throughout the country. It's not just hearsay. It's not just crazy animal rescuers or crazy cat people saying that TNR works. It's been proven. There's colonies in Massachusetts where a city was overrun with 300 cats. There's one that remains now, and that was decade over decade of trap and kill now versus TNR. There's real statistics now that prove it is the best, not only the most humane for the animals, but the most humane for people. You've got Employee of the Month. You have people here who work very hard on behalf of animals, and it takes a human toll having to take animals in and euthanize them. So allowing these cats to be sterilized and put back where they come from is the best way to actually finally get to that population control that we've never been able to attain through another method. So I would like you to think hard about voting this ordinance in and helping us continue to make the positive changes in this parish.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate
Thank
it. Seeing no discussion, is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Bender, second by Ms. O'Brien. Please vote.
The motion is unanimous with 2 absent.
Thank you. Thank you all. Okay, we'll go to appointments. Number 1, resolution to appoint Jeffrey K. Barker to replace Kenneth Fussell and to reappoint Clayton Boyd Foreman, Gregory Byers, and William Austin Darcy on the Board of Commissioners for the St. Tammany Parish Fire Protection District Number 6. Mr. Fitzgerald?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Fitzgerald, second by Ms. Tanner. Please vote.
The motion is unanimous with 2 absent.
Thank you. Number 2, resolution to appoint Andrew Johnson to fill a vacancy on the Board of Commissioners for the Sub-Drainage District Number 3 of Gravity Drainage District Number 5. Mr. Taladano?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Taladano, second by Mr. Fitzgerald. Please vote.
The motion is unanimous with 2 absent.
Number 3, resolution to reappoint Lloyd Ostendorf, David Stein, Arthur J. Davis, David S. Pittman, Joseph Prisco Jr., and Chuck Daniel, terms expired, to the Board of Commissioners for St. Tammany Parish Recreation District Number 14. Mr. Dean?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Dean, second by Mr. Taladano. Please vote.
The motion is unanimous with 2 absent.
Number 4, resolution to appoint Deputy Chief Brett Herbert to replace former Deputy Chief Tiffany Carrasco on the Board of Commissioners for the St. Tammany Parish Communication District Number 1, parish-wide. Motion by Mr. Jimmy Davis, second by Mr. Bender. Please vote. Okay, I need a motion.
The motion is unanimous with 2 absent.
Suspend and adopt. Okay, could I have a motion to suspend and adopt, being it's parish-wide? Motion by Ms. O'Brien, second by Mr. Bender. Please vote.
The motion is unanimous with 2 absent.
Resolution to reappoint George Osborne, Silton Anthony, Tony Delvier, Jose Fernandez, and Mark Cortez. Terms expired on the Board of Commissioners for the St. Tammany Parish Fire Protection District Number 13. Mr. Dean?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Dean, second by Ms. Casabon.
She's not here.
I mean, Ms. Tanner. Please vote.
The motion is unanimous with 1 absent.
All righty. We'll go to, okay, number 6, resolution to appoint E.J. Mayfield to replace Dooley Crawford, resigned on the Board of Commissioners for the St. Tammany Parish Recreation District Number 7. Ms. Tanner?
I so move.
Motion by Ms. Tanner, second by Mr. Fitzgerald. Please vote.
The motion is unanimous with 1 absent.
Thank you. We'll go to the consent calendar. Any items not pulled from the consent calendar are automatically approved in whole by 1 vote. Items pulled from the consent calendar are discussed and voted upon individually. A majority vote of 8 council is required to adopt the consent calendar. As of right now, I have ordinance calendar number 1, which is C dot number 6711. I have number 19, ordinance calendar number 6729. We'll go to resolutions. Number 6, resolution CS number C-6486. That's all I have. Mr. Dean?
No, sir.
Mr. Fitzgerald? Mr. Taladano?
None, thank you.
Ms. Tanner?
No, sir.
Mr. Jimmy Davis? No. Mr. Bender?
No, sir.
Mr. Mike Smith?
No, sir.
Ms. O'Brien?
No, sir.
Okay. Mr. Airy?
No, sir.
Mr. T.J. Smith?
I have none.
Okay, thanks. I'm sorry, I left you off, Mr. Canulet. Yes, sir.
And Stefan?
And you left me off too.
Mrs.
You
Stefanski?
trying to get rid of me?
Mrs. Stefanski?
I'm here.
He's trying to get ready to
Nothing
ride,
pull.
too.
All right, thank you. Anything from the administration? Anything from legal?
No, sir.
Okay, anybody from the audience wish to pull anything? Come on up, Mr. Carlo, come on up where I can hear you. You're way in the corner. Yes, sir.
Carlo Hernandez. I put in a card for number 4. I had a question about that.
Okay, thank you.
Creation of the Department of Utilities.
All right, Recreation of the Parish, District Number 4, thank you. Okay, I see it. Do you have it?
No.
Do you have it?
I don't. I'm looking.
What's that? I'm gonna get to him, he's number 4. All righty, they had it, Mr. Hernandez. Thank you. Okay, we'll go to number 1, ordinance calendar number 6711. Oh, I'm sorry. I need a motion and a second for the consent. Motion by Mr. Jimmy Davis, second by Mr. Taladano. Please vote.
There's a presentation.
Yes.
I don't think you registered your vote.
The motion is unanimous with 1 absent.
Thank you. We'll go to number 1, ordinance calendar number 6711, an ordinance to amend St. Tammany Code of Ordinances, Chapter 125-88, to incorporate it updated and new criteria and standards for design and location of drainage districts, channels, canals, and similar drainage features, including subsurface drainage. We have Miss Deborah Hinton here. Hello, Deborah.
Hi, how are you all?
We're doing fine, ma'am. You want to hook that up and just take your time? And
Sure.
I think you have a presentation.
Yes, my name is Deborah Hinton. Someone's phone is right here. I am an assistant district attorney with the Civil Division,
Take your time, with no hurry, Mr. Hinton.
tasked to St. Tammany Parish government. And the Civil Division, at the behest of the Department of Engineering and with the assistance of several departments, has developed an amendment to Ordinance number 12588. And its purpose is to ensure that drainage servitudes in subdivision development are not located on private pieces of property. Why do we need that? We need that because in some instances, the drainage servitude that's on a private piece of property is too large and not sized appropriately to size the servitude itself and a home or a commercial building. Number two, the private property owner who is not really in understanding of what a drainage servitude is constructed a fence or other structures that obstruct the ability to maintain the servitude. And then number three, in some instances, the developer who has secured a warranty obligation is unable to have that warranty obligation released because there are obstructions in those drainage servitudes during the warranty obligation period. And here are some examples. Let me go back. So this is Alexiusville. Alexiusville was platted in 1935. This is a re-subdivision of Square 96. You can see that there is a very large drainage feature across Lot 1B, and to the right of that is a 15-foot drainage access servitude. And to the right on the slide, you can see that the house is within that 15-foot drainage servitude and will probably be negatively impacted in the event that that servitude has to be maintained. This is Rayford Oaks, Phase 2A. It was platted in 2012. You can see that between lots 56 and 57, there is a 20-foot drainage easement. And you can see that in this 20-foot drainage easement, the culvert actually it runs under the driveway, but possibly the house and definitely the shed in the back. It will be impossible to maintain this drainage servitude with these obstructions. This is a parish drainage servitude. Forest Brook, Phase 4C, platted in 2003 between lots 217 and 218. You can see that the recorded plat shows a total of a 10-foot drainage servitude, 5 feet on either side. There is not 10 feet between those two fences. Forest Brook, again, 4C4, platted in 2003. The western boundary of Forest Brook subdivision has a 20-foot drainage servitude running along the back of that property. And as you can see from the aerial, fences have been constructed over that servitude in part. Forest Brook 4C4 again, between lots 229 and 230. Here's the drainage plan and the recorded plat. You can see that there is a drainage servitude running between those two houses, and this is to be maintained by our homeowners, but it's on their property. Grand Oaks, Phase 2B, platted in 2015. This is between lots 177 and 178. You can see that the recorded plat and the drainage plan is on the left. This is a combination of public and private drainage. So this private drainage servitude, this isn't a private drainage servitude. This is a parish drainage servitude, but you can see that the fences have been constructed across that 20 feet of parish drainage servitude. Robindale, platted in 1960. Here's a huge drainage servitude a huge drainage feature on Lot 2, and the aerials to the left indicate that that very large drainage feature is entirely too close to that house. That drainage feature is not suited to be on a lot with a house adjacent to it. Grand Maison, this was Phase 1, platted in 2006. This is between lots 51 and 52. This is a parish drainage servitude, and you can see that there are two large culverts running from the front of the street to the back of the house, and there are fences constructed over that. 807 Montmartre Street in Mandeville. It's outside of Mandeville. It's in the parish. This is a 1984 re-subdivision. You can see the re-subdivision plat. I put it out there for you on the left, but you can see that huge drainage feature running across multiple lots in this area. And that's what it looks like from the street. And you can see that there's a fence constructed over the very large ditch running through these people's lots. Winghaven subdivision, 1995, lots 19, 20, and 21. This is a combination of public and private drainage. This pond is located on lots 19. The majority of it's on lot 20, and there's a little bit on lot 21. This is a publicly maintained road and roadside drainage, but that pond is supposed to be maintained by the homeowners association. It has not been maintained, and it has silted in, and the capacity is reduced, and these people are perilously close to that very large pond without the capacity to withstand heavy rain events. Penn Mill Lakes. This is Phase 2A3, platted in 2003. You can see that that pond is located, it abuts that lot. And in Penn Mill Lakes, there's a 5-foot setback, so that very large pond is 5 feet from that house.
Crazy.
Grand Oaks, Phase 2A1, between lots 113 and 114. This was platted in 2014. You can see that there's a 20-foot drainage servitude running between 113 and 114, and then 114 and 115. This is a parish drainage servitude. You can see someone extended their driveway over our drainage servitude and constructed fences. Grand Oaks, Phase 2A1. You can see here is our drainage servitude, again, 20 feet between these two houses, and this is on the other, this is the other side. People have constructed fences over our drainage servitude. This is Grand Oaks Phase 2B, between lots 105 and 106. You can see somebody put their driveway and their fences over the parish drainage servitude. We will not be able to maintain this without a lot of complex activity. Laurelwood, Phase 2, platted in 1998 through lot 76. This is the pond behind this home is private, but this drainage servitude is the parish's. And you can see that that drainage servitude bisects lot 76. And so these people have constructed their entire driveway over the parish drainage servitude. Ruelle de Chêne, Phase 2, platted in 2003 between lots 46 and 47. You can see this is a parish drainage servitude. Someone's installed their generator and fences across the parish drainage servitude. Beauchene, Section 3, Phase 2A and 2B. This was platted in 1983. This is a drainage servitude that runs concurrently with the setback. So what you have is you have a home 5 feet from the drainage, 10 feet from the drainage ditch because of the setback line. And that is a very large drainage feature. You can see from that topo that I included that's the lots front Bayou Tetlors, and you can see that that's a finger of the bayou coming up there. Paralou Trace, this is the instance where the developer's warranty obligation cannot be released because of the fact that a homeowner has constructed a fence across the drainage servitude. The developer turned this over to the HOA. The HOA approved construction of the fence, and now the developer's warranty obligation is, and the security for it is being held because that fence is obstructing this drainage servitude. That's it. There's just a real need for this. The design of this modification to this amendment is such that there will not be allowed to be any kind of drainage servitudes because homeowners don't understand, the dismemberment of ownership and the fact that you have to leave those servitudes clear to be maintained. So, thank you very much.
Deborah, if I'm not mistaken, I think we had a bunch, at least 3 or 4 meetings on this. How many did you have?
Oh, we did. We had many, many meetings. In fact, the legal department or the civil division was tasked in February of 2019 to try to amend this ordinance. So we have met regularly over the last 2.5 years with multiple departments, most especially the Department of Engineering, because these drainage complaints fall on them, and then the maintenance of these drainage servitudes falls on the Department of Public Works.
And
yes.
if I'm not mistaken, I believe developers at some of these meetings you held?
Yes, sir, that is correct. We had a meeting where we asked for input from several developers, and this is our finished product.
Right. What was their comments on it, or did they have any? I remember being at one, but I don't remember exactly what they said.
So I believe one comment from a developer was that the servitude the servitude should be 15 feet. But the Department of Public Works requires at least 20 feet for their drainage servitude so that they can get the equipment in to maintain the servitude. So the idea is that you have the ditch on one side, and then you have enough room on the other side to access and maintain the ditch.
Now, all the pictures you showed us, if this would pass, how would this affect them? Would they be grandfathered in, or would we go back and say that they need to change this, or remove a fence, or remove a driveway? How would that work?
You mean the homeowners,
Yes, ma'am.
sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, they're going to, at some point, have to remove those obstructions from the parish drainage servitude. Those lots in those subdivision developments have been recorded with the clerk of court. And that servitude is an impingement on that private property. They will have to have it removed at some point in time.
Would it be when there's an issue there, or would the parish go out and look at these and say remove them?
I think that would be on an as-needed basis.
Okay. Thank you. We have a couple of questions. Mr. Dean?
I just wanted to say, half of them probably were in my district. How they got a driveway over servitude, I don't understand. Certainly that should have been approved somewhere down the line, or disapproved rather. But anyway, I 200%. I remember, I think I was on the council a month, and the Public Works guys were asking me, Marty, when you all approve all these subdivisions, please allow us a place to be able to clean the ditches. And so anyway, it's an old problem. I 200% support this.
Yes, sir. Mr. Dean, it was just by accident that most of these homes were in your district. I'm
not taking it personal.
There is one in Magnolia Forest that I'm looking at right now.
No, you're right. You're right.
Deborah, that's not an accident, ma'am. That's not an accident. Mr. Mike Smith?
Okay, when you're finished with Magnolia in my district, you can go up to Sawmill Creek, and there's a guy who's added his driveway on top of the ditch servitude, and now he's adding more on the back. And I've told him not to and sent him out there because everybody wants that ditch serviced because it's flood season.
Sure.
They want it serviced, and it is a problem. And sometimes it's because people genuinely don't know. They just don't know,
Yes,
and they
sir,
don't
that's right.
understand. And they'll put a fence up like in Magnolia Forest all the way down the property line. And then sometimes they just don't care and they add the driveway.
Yes, sir. And this will help ensure that the parish 20, 30, 40 years down the road will be able to drain the way it's supposed to.
Deborah, I see no one else in the queue, but I just want to say thank you. I know you put a lot of time and effort, your staff, Public Works, engineering, everyone on this issue, and just want to thank you all for the time. Is there, can I get a motion to introduce? A motion by Mr. Dean, second by Mr. Davis. Thank you. Could I have a motion to refer to the Planning Commission? Motion by Mr. Fitzgerald, second by Ms. O'Brien. Please vote.
The motion is unanimous with one absent.
Thank you. Number 4, ordinance calendar number 6714, ordinance to amend section 2-182 and section 2-183 of the St. Tammany Parish Code of Ordinance for reorganization of parish departments. Mr. Hernandez, you have a
Thank you.
question, sir?
Yes, if one were to read just the title of this, one would not know what is being done. What is being done is the Department of Utilities is being created, and presently it falls within the Department of Environmental Services. My question is, and it's a couple of questions actually. First, we know that there's a study that's just getting underway regarding some of the operations here, and I'm curious whether that will have any effect regarding the staffing and funding of this department, proposed Department of Utilities. I have no problem with the proposed Department of Utilities. What I question is, will there be additional funds needed for its operations? And if so, do we have any idea how much it is? That's my question. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Mr. Hernandez. I'm going to go to Ms. Gina Hayes, and then I'll come to you, Mr. Mike Smith. Ms. Hayes?
Well, basically, both departments have the funding's already split. Some positions within the Department of Environmental Services, the existing department, there are a few positions that are split percentage-wise between the two different funding sources, one from Tammany Utilities and one for Environmental Services. So there'll be some moving around. But with regard to any additional funds that will be needed in order to accomplish the separation and create the separation of one department into two, the only additional funding that will be needed at this time would be to fund one more position, which would be the Director of Utilities.
And do you have an amount on that, or do you?
We do not have an exact amount for that
Okay.
just yet. President Cooper wanted me to explain the reasons why we're separating this into two departments. It's primarily for two reasons. The first reason is the Department of Environmental Services is tasked with doing a lot of oversight and regulatory work over utilities, private utilities, and other utility companies within parish government. And right now, the way that works is they're kind of, I hate to say self-regulating Tammany Utilities, because the Department of Tammany Utilities is within the Department of Environmental Services, which regulates the utility companies. So it's something that we have to very carefully, and we've been very careful about how we do that, but it would be something that would definitely be better if we separated it completely into two completely different departments. The next reason is because the Department of Utilities, Tammany Utilities, really is a very important department. They service thousands of residents for water and wastewater, and it's something that deserves the full attention and dedication of a staff where that's not going to be split among duties, some duties for environmental services and some for Tammany Utilities. So it just requires more of a focus, and that's what we're attempting to do with the separation.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mike Smith?
Echo some of what Ms. Hayes said, but did that cover the cost analysis that you needed, or did you, Carlos, or did you have any other questions about that? Okay, that's okay? Okay. The focus and expertise and efficiency, because the system that we've got now has grown a lot from the original system that the parish purchased. and it's at various different ages. So it's becoming, you need someone who's totally focused on that and not trying to do too many responsibilities, I think, at one time, to do it effectively. And do it efficiently so that we don't spend any more money than we actually have to. But to also be progressive and to think about growth and what we need for the future, because there's a lot of things that need to be done. So I think separating this is going to be a really good thing going down the line.
Thank you, Mike. I just want to say one thing on this. Yes, I think it's very good. We talked about it about 4 years ago, and we finally getting to that. It's grown. I know all the fire districts, a lot of people wanted that, and I'm just happy that we're finally moving forward with that. So do I have a motion and a second? Motion by Mr. Mike Smith, second by Mr. Canulette. Thank you. Okay. Number 19, ordinance calendar number 6729, ordinance to amend the St. Tammany Parish Code of Ordinance, section 2-39, precinct description, and to amend ordinance council series number 19-4200, ordinance to create prospective precincts, change the configuration, boundaries, or designation of its election precincts in accordance with Louisiana Revised Statute 18.532 and 18.532.1, and to provide a polling booth location pursuant to Louisiana Revised Statute, certain precincts to the correct council districts at a public hearing on July 8th, 2021. Any discussion? This motion was introduced at our June 30th, 2021 special meeting. It needs to be adopted. Is there, Mr. Stefancic? Okay, motion by Mr. Stefancic, second by Mr. Mike Smith. Seeing no one, please vote.
Mr. Mike Smith, what was your vote? With a verbal yes from Mr. Mike Smith, the motion passes with 11 yeas, 1 abstention, and, 12 yeas, 1 abstention, and 1 absent.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll go to number 6, resolution CS number C-6486, resolution to concur, not concur, with the City of Slidell annexation and rezoning of 1.55 acres, more or less, from Parish 8C-2 Highway Commercial to City C-3 Central Business District, or C-4 Highway Commercial. This property is located at 1700 Shortcut Highway, identified as Lot 10A, Pine Shadow subdivision, located at the intersection of Shortcut Highway 190 East and bordered by Neville Drive and Beth Drive, situated in Section 11, T9S, Range 14E, Ward 8, District 12. Mr. Bender.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
In reading the documentation from the City of Slidell and Planning Department's notes, there will be no intensification of zoning between the parish zoning classification and the city zoning classification. Therefore, I'll make a motion to concur.
I have a motion to concur by Mr. Bender, second by Mr. Canulette. Please, thank you. Please vote. Ooh, did it too fast.
Mr. TJ? The motion is unanimous with 1 absent.
Thank you. We'll go to ordinance for adoption. Number 1, ordinance calendar number 6603, an ordinance amending the official zoning map to reclassify 4.2 acres of land from its present HC2 Highway Commercial District to I-2 Industrial District, Ward 4, District 5. Mr. Taladano. Motion by Mr. Taladano, second by Mr. Dean. Please vote.
The motion is unanimous with one absent.
Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to skip number 2. I can move through these pretty fast, and then we'll come back to that one and close on number 2, if it's okay. Ordinance count number 3, ordinance calendar number 6683, ordinance to declare certain parcels near the intersection of St. Tammany Trace and U.S. Highway 190 as surplus property and to authorize the transfer said property to the State of Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development, Ward 3, District 2. Mr. Fitzgerald.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Fitzgerald, second by Ms. Tanner. Please vote.
The motion is unanimous with one absent.
Number 4, ordinance calendar number 6684, an ordinance to correct the road and drainage inventory to include Reeves Drive, lateral DO3FWO2023, Ward 3, District 2. Mr. Fitzgerald.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Fitzgerald, second by Mr. Taladano. Please vote.
The motion is unanimous with one absent.
Thank you. Number 5, ordinance calendar number 6685, an ordinance amending the official zoning map to reclassify 1 acre of land from its present NC-4 Neighborhood Industrial District to an HC2 Highway Commercial District, Ward 10, District 2, 2021-2248-ZC. Mr. Fitzgerald.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Fitzgerald, second by Mr. Dean. Please vote.
The motion is unanimous with one absent.
Number 6, ordinance calendar number 6686, an ordinance amending the official zoning map to reclassify .13 acres of land more or less from its present A-4 single-family residential district to an A-4 single-family residential district and MHO manufactured housing overlay, Ward 8, District 14. Mr. Smith?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Bender. Please vote.
Mr. TJ. The motion is unanimous with 2 absent.
Number 7, ordinance calendar 6687, ordinance amending official zoning map to reclassify .64 acres of land from its present A-3 suburban district to an A-3 suburban district and MHO, manufactured housing overlay, Ward 10, District 2. Mr. Fitzgerald.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Fitzgerald, second by Mr. Dean. Please vote.
The motion is unanimous with 2 absent.
Number 8, ordinance calendar number 6689, an ordinance amending the official zoning map to reclassify .8377 acres of land from its present A-4 single-family residential district to an A-4 single-family residential district and MHO manufactured housing overlay, Ward 7, District 7. Mr. Davis.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Davis, second by Ms. Tanner. Please vote.
The motion is unanimous with 2 absent.
Number 9, ordinance calendar number 6690, an ordinance amending the official zoning map to reclassify 4.909 acres of land from its present HC-1 Highway Commercial District to an ED-1 Primary Education District, Ward 3, District 5. Mr. Taladano. Motion by Mr. Taladano, second by Mr. Fitzgerald. Please vote.
Mr. Taladano. The motion is unanimous with 2 absent.
Number 10, ordinance calendar number 6691, an ordinance amending the official zoning map to reclassify .2500 acres of land from its present A-4 single-family residential district to an A-4 single-family residential district and MHO manufactured housing overlay, Ward 9, District 14. Mr. Smith? Motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Stefanski. Please vote.
The motion is unanimous with 2 absent.
Number 11, ordinance calendar number 6692, an ordinance amending the official zoning map to reclassify .262 acres of land from its present A-6 multifamily residential district to an A-4A single-family residential district, Ward 9, District 13. Mr. Airy? Motion by Mr. Airy, second by Mr. Smith. Please vote.
The motion is unanimous with 2 absent.
Number 12, ordinance calendar number 6693, an ordinance amending the official zoning map to reclassify .90 acres of land from its present A-2 suburban district to a CBF-1 community-based facility district, Ward 4, District 7. Mr. Davis?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Davis, second by Ms. Tanner. Please vote.
The motion is unanimous with 2 absent.
Thank you. 13, ordinance calendar number 6694, an ordinance amending the official zoning map to reclassify .13 acres of land from its present A-2 suburban district to a PF-1 public facility district, Ward 5, District 6. Ms. Tanner?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Tanner, second by Mr. Fitzgerald. Please vote.
The motion is unanimous with 2 absent.
14, ordinance calendar number 6695, an ordinance amending the official zoning map, reclassify 242.98 acres of land more or less from its present PF-2 public facility district to PF-2 public facilities district and RO rural overlay, Ward 6, District 6. Ms. Tanner?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Tanner, second by Mr. Toledano. Please vote.
The motion is unanimous with 2 absent.
Thank you. Ordinance calendar number 6696, ordinance to amend the 2020 operating budget, amendment number 7. Ms. Long?
Yes, sir. This ordinance is to amend the operating budget. It involves 3 funds: our general fund, the drainage maintenance to recognize the revenue from the ad valorem tax that was approved by voters in March, and then also in our utility department to fund some generators for the water well sites and alarm monitoring systems.
Thank you. See, motion by Mr. Toledano, second by Mr. Dean. Please vote.
The motion is unanimous with 2 absent.
16, ordinance calendar number 6697, ordinance to amend the 2021 grants budget, amendment number 7. Ms. Long?
Yes, sir. This amendment number 7 involves grants for our Safe Haven facility from the Office of Community Development and HUD entitlement for the St. Tammany Airport for the design of the runway, mill and overlay, for our transit system for rural, and for animal services for a life-saving program.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Davis, second by Mr. Toledano. Please vote.
The motion is unanimous with 1 absent.
We didn't have this.
We had it,
Okay. Is there Miss Rebecca Miller here? Miss Miller?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, number 16, we just did that one. Number 17, ordinance calendar number 6698, ordinance to amend the 2021 capital improvement budget and capital assets, amendment number 33, sales tax, District 3, parish-wide roads and drainage. Ms. Long?
Yes, sir. This amendment will be to fund St. John Church Road Bridge repairs.
Motion by Mr. Toledano, second by Mr. Canulette. Please vote.
The motion is unanimous with one absent.
18, ordinance calendar number 6699, ordinance to amend the 2021 capital improvement budget and capital assets, amendment number 14. Ms. Long?
Yes, sir. This amendment from the drainage ad valorem tax is for a parish-wide drainage plan.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Canulette, second by Mr. Mike Smith. Please vote.
The motion is unanimous with one absent.
Number 20, ordinance calendar number 6701, ordinance to amend the 2021 capital improvement budget and capital assets, amendment number 36, sales tax District 3, District 7. Ms. Long?
Was that District 7 or?
Did I skip 7? Let's do
Okay.
that one then. We'll
Okay,
go
I'm
back
sorry.
to that
For
one, Dan.
for District 7, if you want to do, you had that was 6701.
Yes, ma'am.
That is for Bell Park Road and for North 12th Street.
Okay, thank you. Motion by Mr. Jimmy Davis, second by Mr. Toledano. Please vote. We'll go back up to 670, ordinance calendar.
The motion is unanimous with one absent.
Number 19, ordinance calendar 6700, ordinance to amend the 2021 capital improvement budget and capital assets, amendment 35. Ms. Long?
Yes, sir. This is in Council District 3. It is for the Brule Road overlay at the turning radius.
Okay. Motion by Ms. Tanner, second by Mr. Toledano. Please vote.
The motion is unanimous with one absent.
Ordinance calendar number 6702, ordinance to amend the 2021 capital improvement budget and capital assets, amendment number 37, Safe Haven. Ms. Long?
Yes, sir. This involves several projects at Safe Haven, all funded by grants, a master plan, stormwater management, upgrades to water and sewer, sidewalks, nature trails, pavilions, signage, and landscaping.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Jimmy Davis, second by Ms. Tanner. Please vote.
The motion is unanimous with one absent.
22, ordinance calendar number 6703, ordinance to amend the 2021 capital improvement budget and capital assets, amendment number 38, St. Tammany Parish Library Facilities. Ms. Long?
Yes, sir. This is for a project at the South Slidell Library for a roof replacement.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Stefanczyk, second by Mr. Bender. Please vote.
The motion is unanimous with one absent.
Number 23, ordinance calendar number 6704, ordinance to amend the 2021 capital improvement budget and capital assets, amendment number 39, Buildings General, St. Tammany Regional Airport. Ms. Long?
Yes, sir. This also is grant funded, and it is to rehabilitate the runway at the regional airport
Thank you.
for
Motion.
the design.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Bender, second by Mr. Airy. Please vote.
The motion is unanimous with one absent.
Number 24, ordinance calendar number 6705, ordinance to amend the 2021 capital improvement budget and capital assets, amendment number 40, utilities operation, Tammany Utilities. Ms. Long?
This amendment is for the acquisition of equipment for the utility system for well site generators and lift station remote monitoring.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Toledano. Please vote.
The motion is unanimous with one absent.
Number 25, ordinance calendar number 6706, excuse me. Ordinance to amend the 2021 capital improvement budget and capital assets, amendment number 14. Transportation, grants management. Ms. Long?
Yes, sir. This amendment will be for the purchase of a passenger bus, 16-passenger bus using grant funding.
Thank you. Motion by Ms. Tanner, second by Mr. Jimmy Davis. Please vote.
The motion is unanimous with one absent.
Number 26, ordinance calendar number 6707, ordinance to amend the 2021 capital improvement budget and capital assets, amendment number 42, sales tax District 3, District 4. Motion by Mr. Toledano, second by Mr. Dean. Please vote. Oh, I'm sorry, I went right over you, didn't I?
Well,
It said District 4, so I just did mine.
You already knew.
go right
I guess you
ahead.
knew what it was. In Council District 4, the project is at the Belterre Boulevard Mill and Overlay.
That's a good one. I thank you. I knew you were going to say that. Please vote.
The motion is unanimous with one absent.
Number 28, ordinance calendar number 6709, ordinance to authorize St. Tammany Parish government through the office of the parish president to accept the dedication and donation of Queenie Lane for the use of public streets and providing for other matters in connection therewith. District 6, Ms. Tanner.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Tanner, second by Mr. Jimmy Davis. Please vote.
The motion is unanimous with one absent.
Number 29, ordinance calendar number 6710, an ordinance amending the official zoning map to reclassify 5.693 acres of land from its present A-4 suburban district to an A-1A suburban district and A-2 suburban district, Ward 3, District 3. Motion by Ms. Tanner, second by Mr. Davis. Please vote.
Mr. Fitzgerald. The motion is unanimous with one absent.
Okay, thank you. That's the end of the meeting. That's all I saw, huh? Is that it? Yeah, we can do that one, yeah. I'm sorry, Mike, was that? Okay, I'm just kidding. But, okay, let me read number 2 first. Ordinance calendar number 6641, an ordinance to amend and reenact the St. Tammany Parish Code of Ordinances, Chapter 22, Permits, and Chapter 130, Unified Development Code, relative to short-term rental, 2021-2348-ZC. Mr. Stefanczyk.
Yeah, this is the results of the last group of us trying to put together a short-term rental ordinance, and certainly want to thank legal counsel and Mr. Airy and our staff for working on this. It's been about 4 years ago when we tried to put one of these through, and it just got so convoluted, we couldn't come to an agreement on what needed to be said in any kind of an ordinance like this. Tonight, we put together an ordinance that, and we've been working on this for 6 months or so. We put together an ordinance that will allow us to at least get started on short-term rentals and enforcing short-term rentals in this parish, and then give us time to work out any problems that we have with it. And the only thing I can tell you is we've heard all the stories. People say you didn't ask us on this. Yes, we did. We held public hearings the last time, and we still have all those notes from those public hearings, so we didn't lose anything. And I think most of us, at least Jake and I, have gotten probably hundreds of emails, maybe and a few phone calls on this, and they go both ways. So we were interested in getting this thing passed and try to make sense out of it and get it to working before February 1st. And that's when it would become effective. So with that in mind, I'll stop now and let it go and see what happens. I may want to speak later.
Okay, Mr. Stefancic, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And yes, you're correct. You've been working on this for a number of years, and thank you very much. If anyone else has a card that did not turn one in for or against, please do. That's it. I want the ones for. Okay. What I'm going to do is just divided the cards up, and we'll go to for and against. But please remember, and Colin, we have someone operating the clock for me?
Yes, Michelle.
Michelle, you going to handle that? Okay, thank you. Mr. Leo Doyle? Mr. Leo? Yes, sir. And everyone come up, please just state your name and address for the record first, please.
Okay. Leo Doyle, I live at 268 Lakeview Drive. I'm the president of the Lakeview Residents Association, so I'm here representing everybody that lives on Lakeview Drive. And I'm pleased to say that we're converting Rat's Nest Row to Lakeview Drive, okay? So there's a lot of things that are happening on our street to beautify it with the new marina, as well as soon the Blue Crab will be opening up, and we're very proud of that. More of our members are now, of the association, are now full-time residents of Lakeview Drive. No longer do we have the camps that were over the lake that were man-made, and lots of the cars that everybody was parking on the streets. It's now becoming in a residential neighborhood. And what we have now is we classified them as party houses, have moved into our neighborhood, and what I mean is short-term rentals. We have multiple cars that are parked on the street. We have late-night parties, drinking, and I should classify it as mismanaged. Some of the short-term rentals in other places are managed a little better. In our situations that we've had, I'll give you an example. 2 doors down from me, a gentleman rented out through Airbnb. Well, there's 20 male that show up with their cars all parked, 3-bedroom house. Loud music going on, and what do I see walk out the back porch onto my property? An oversized pit bull. I got my grandkids running around. Now all of a sudden everybody's upstairs, and my time's ruined as a result of this pit bull walking around onto my property. Okay, that's what I talk about mismanaged. Because the owner, after we called them, he said, "Oh, they weren't supposed to have any animals." Well, did you show up? Did you check them in? They said they were going to have 4 people. There's 20. And it just so happened they bring a guest, the pit bull. Okay, so that's the type of thing that we're seeing more and more. Just this weekend, the 4th of July, we have the police sign out that's showing the speed because we're trying to control the speed on our street. Well, they almost blew up the sign with fireworks, and we got pictures of it, of the fireworks going all up by the sign. Thank God it wasn't damaged. We had the inspections come out and take a look at it. But that's the situation that you're seeing with these party houses. And again, more of these businesses are opening up. Last point.
Yes, sir.
They're running a commercial business in a residential zoned neighborhood.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Mr. Lee, remember what I said? Remember what I said about clapping? We understand. Mr. Lee, Long Street. Mr. Lee?
Lee Long Street, 128 Windward Passage, Slidell, Eden Isle subdivision. I'm going to keep it short tonight because I've already addressed the council on this, and especially my councilman knows this. But unsupervised hotels on lots as small as 60 foot with neighbors on both sides is an undisputable violation of single-family residential zoning. I know attorneys must represent their clients, and we're going to hear from them tonight to the best of their ability. But to publicly support unlawful acts can become a Louisiana State Bar Association issue. I just wanted to bring that up. Jefferson and Orleans have recognized the short-term rental problem and passed ordinances restricting these activities. Other cities and other states have done the same to stop this outrageous abuse of single-family neighborhoods. Single-family residential zoning is the most restrictive zoning there is, yet some think it's okay to run unsupervised hotels. I urge the council to pass this ordinance tonight. Those short-term rentals that do not quite fit the restrictions, and I know there are some, can always file a zoning appeal, and I'm sure some of them deserve that. But the bulk of these, like the gentleman before me said, are strictly people coming in with no vested interest in our neighborhoods, looking for a party, and they don't come in 2 or 3 people, they come in big groups. Thank you, gentlemen. I hope you pass this tonight.
Thank you, Lee. Appreciate it, sir. Thank you. Mr. Michael Valesso. Mr. Michael? Valesso?
Close.
We're gonna try Galavasso.
I'll get it. Go ahead, sir.
Good afternoon, Council. I spoke the last time concerning this issue, and I'm in favor of it, but there's no one blanket way to do things. As before, where other people stated that they have properties, and I live on Bayou Liberty Road. I have 4 acres. I have it on my property. Other people have properties on their property, and they manage and they maintain it. I only ask that the council look at every aspect of giving this zoning application. I just spoke with Mr. Ross. He's going to send me the whole total thing. I didn't have a chance to look at it all.
Okay.
But please consider each aspect of it. The subdivisions have one problem. We on Bayou Liberty Road, we have another problem. I have acreage. I can submit, I have mine there. Other people have acreage, they have theirs. If you go down Bayou Liberty Road, you don't even know some of them are short-term rentals. We operate quietly, efficiently, we pay our taxes, we pay the high cost of insurance and everything else. I implore this council to look at all aspects of it, such that everybody is treated equally. And the people in these subdivisions that have these problems, I came from New Orleans. I had the same problem. I know that. And with the city of New Orleans had to construct these things to make it work. I implore this council, and just as we prayed on it, that everything is fair and equitable as much as possible. Thank you, council.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Al Dewey. Mr. Al?
I will rescind mine.
I'm sorry?
I will rescind mine.
Okay, so thank you. Doug Graffney. Doug? Okay. Okay, so thank you. Paul Titus? Okay. Lee Dominic?
My name is Lee Domingue. I live at 34057 Bayou Liberty Road. I am in support of the proposed ordinance for short-term rentals. I am not in support of the amendment proposed by Planning and Zoning for a rural overlay. But I will say this resolution as originally drafted very effectively defines, regulates, and actually provides a process for permitting short-term rentals in unincorporated St. Tammany. More important than all of that, it protects citizens who live in purely residential zoning districts. And I think primarily that involves A1 through A4. I live on Bayou Liberty Road, and unfortunately, I live in proximity to 4 short-term rentals. I actually know the owners, the property owners for 3 of them. I have talked to them about issues regarding these rentals, and they have been very cordial. Unfortunately, this is a very profitable business, and make no mistake, it is a commercial entity, it is a business, and it's operating currently in residential areas. That's a problem. Now, I'm all for people making money. I'm all for business and capitalism. I like to see people make money. I just don't want them to profit at my expense, on my location, in my home, in my way of life. That's an issue for me. And that's what I'm finding more and more with the short-term rental industry. And everybody's already talked about noise and outdoor amplified music and karaoke. I've had all of that. I've had people with large parties, 30, 40, and 50 people, making a lot of noise throughout the day and night. I've had young people, obviously alcohol-fueled, yelling at the moon with the obscenities at 2 o'clock in the morning. I actually call the owners of these companies, these houses actually, and I tell them, look, this is what's going on at your home, at your house. And they tell me, Lee, call the sheriff's office. They even advise me, I'm going to still get paid the rent, and now they're going to forfeit their deposit because a deputy has to go out. The point is, the people who benefit from this are the owners. Those of us who live nearby, we're the victims. We have to subject ourselves and our families to this kind of nonsense at all times. This is a real big issue. One thing we haven't talked about, though, is you never know who's next door. You don't know your neighbor. And that's a big problem. There could be a murderer, a felon, a convicted rapist. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Miss Bonnie Durang, Miss Bonnie. Miss Bonnie Durang.
Hi, my name is Bonnie Deering. I live at 112 Rampage Loop in Slidell in the neighborhood of Eden Isles. We are for the enforcement of this ordinance because we are residents. We are in a residential area. Our neighbor directly on the side of us is a VRBO. We are within arm's length apart from each other. This is the deck. This is our deck. Just this past weekend, we had about 17 people in the actual house. They have no respect for your privacy, for what you're doing or anything. They actually are saying, hey ma'am, hey lady, put your dogs up. I need to get on your dock. Put your dogs up. And we're just trying to enjoy ourselves after work. It's not just a weekend problem, it's every day. This VRBO is being rented on a daily basis, Monday through Sunday. Every 3 days, every 5 days, you have different people. There's illegal drugs in this house, every single visitor. We just bought this house back in December. Had we have known that this is what's happening within our house, in our community, and I mean, it's a residential, it's full of kids, it's a beautiful community. We love it there. We would have never bought in St. Tammany Parish. This is not being enforced. It's not, we're taxpayers. We're not being protected. I'll call the police. I'm letting them know there's marijuana from morning, noon, afternoon, all day long. Well, if we don't see it, it's not there. What happens to us? I'm not validated. I am now known as the VRBO crazy lady, okay? It's not real funny. I mean, it's comical, but at the same time, I have two girls this past weekend, invited a friend over for the first time. Like I said, just moved there, learning the community. She brings her girlfriend over. They do go to a private school, okay? She's like, what is that odor? What is that smell? And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I don't want to say, you know, what it is. It's all the time, all the time. She says, well, gosh, I got a headache. Can we just take all the crafts and everything inside? I mean, it's every day, y'all. It's every day for us, literally right here. You tell them, hey guys, I'm sorry, it's illegal to smoke marijuana. It's illegal in Louisiana. They don't care. You know what we get? Mentioned it last time. They destroy our property, they throw fish heads, they throw chicken bones in our boats. I mean, literally, we're this far apart. You cannot sit on your dock for anything. Hey, oh, those are kayaks over there. Hey, can we borrow your kayaks? Give us your kayaks. Where's the respect? They have no respect for our community, for our home, for our livelihood, nothing. My problem is that it's unsafe. You don't know who's in there. 15 men, 20 men getting dropped off in van loads. And it's like party, noise, all that. If somebody wants to have a good time, so be it. But it's the danger of knowing who's in the home next to you gawking at your family and what they're doing or not doing.
Thank you, ma'am. Louis Durang, Mr. Lewis.
Greetings, Louis Deering, 112 Rampage Loop, Eden Isles. I support the ordinance. I want to share some of my experiences living next door to a house that's rented, temporarily VRBO type. Like my wife just said, if we had known it was VRBO, it was under the guise that it was a single family dwelling. It's not. Had we known that, we wouldn't have moved there. We had to get a survey done because there were 8 to 10 shrubs planted on our property. And it was the VRBO property owner that put them there. Not only was it on property, it was on top of our water line. Anybody knows anything about a water line, you don't want anything with roots around your water line. So I dug them up, I moved them out. That was an event. It's been a contentious day after day thing. The homeowner fashioned their fence, the backyard fence, so that the means of egress for their occupants was on our property without asking anything. These things have since been remedied, but this is how it started. Again, daily contentious. Since the last time we met, there's been 2 or 3 instances where the guests at the house are in the back smoking marijuana, and I'm talking about 8 o'clock in the morning when you're having coffee, at noon when you're having your sandwich outside, any particular time of the day, and they're roasting, okay? We've called the police. We've been encouraged to call the police, the non-emergency line. When the policeman arrives, naturally the wind blows it all away because it's in the backyard, so then the officers come to our house and are looking at us like, why are you calling us? Why are you using this line for this purpose? I got a fair warning. The police officer gave me a fair warning for calling the non-emergency line about marijuana being smoked next door. Yes, I have his name. So these are some of the things, in addition to what everyone else is saying. It's a laundry list. Take it in consideration, please. It impedes the integrity of the neighborhood, and it's just wrong. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Larry Lehas. Larry? Mr. Larry? How you doing, sir?
Larry Lehans, 432 Moonraker Drive, Moonraker Island, okay? I spoke at the last meeting, but I want to touch on some things that are really pertinent. Safety. Again, the lady said you don't know if you got a sex offender living there, a burglar, a felon. You don't know, and you don't want them in your neighborhoods. 450 Eden Isles advertises they sleep 20 people in a 4-bedroom house. You tell me which fire marshal's gonna approve 20 people living in a 4-bedroom apartment, Airbnb, and spending $600 a night. They're making $600 a night. This is a problem where these lawyers want profits over my quality of life. And I strongly feel that my quality of life comes before they're taking food out of their, they're not starving. This is to make money. My brother-in-law in Orlando runs 5 of them, and I know all the games they play. Just for your information, Paris, the city of Paris, France, sued Airbnb. They got $10 million for their deceptive and covert advertisement of illegal properties. The city of Paris sued them because they don't care if they're illegal. They just gonna make the money. So, New Orleans, talking about families. Families can't afford these houses when they're driving up the price. That lady, that 450, she must have put $500,000 into it. It's gorgeous. But it's driving up property, and the lady that lives next to her is gone nuts. They had 50 people Saturday night. 50. The police were called 3 times. And it's not a secret. It's on Vero, it's on Airbnb, it's on Evolve. She wrote on the neighborhood app. She don't care what we say. She's going to continue to do it. Well, I got 40 years of government service, and I don't believe the government's job is to enhance the money for these lawyers over my rights as a resident of Moonraker Island. I know of one on there. I know a lawyer in this room that has 4 or 5 of them in my neighborhood. 8. Okay? One of these lawyers got 8 of them. So they're going to cry for you not to take away their money. But again, I would just ask you, and New Orleans banned them in the quarters because can't afford for residents to live down there in the quarters anymore. So they're banned in New Orleans in the French Quarter.
Thank you.
For that right.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Talladino, I see you have your name there. If you don't mind, wait to the end and I'll go to you, or did you want to? Okay, thank you, sir. Marcel Regatta. Marcel? Yes, sir. Okay, thank you. Jerry Whitmer, Jerry?
Thank you. I think we've worked out.
Okay, so where were you at last week? All righty. Thank you all, appreciate it. Now we'll go to the other side. Got it? Okay. Okay, Miss Leslie Cleric, Leslie?
Hi, this is my first time speaking.
You take your time, ma'am.
And I'm not a public speaker, so
Well,
bear
you
with
take
me.
your time. Just state your name and address, ma'am.
All right, Leslie Clark, 243 Lakeview Drive. So, I'm here because I am a short-term rental owner, and I want to speak specifically about Lakeview Drive. I'm not talking about Eden Isles, the moorings. I'm talking about specifically Lakeview Drive. My camp, my fishing camp, is on the lake. I'm not a residence, I'm a fishing camp. And we bought this property as an investment property and a family camp 2 years ago. My husband and I pay parish taxes, we pay state taxes, and we have a business license for St. Tammany Parish. So we have been following the rules. We allow small parties under owner approval. And anytime my neighbors have called and said there was a problem, I have addressed it immediately. I feel like my husband and I are following the rules, and we are on the lake. These camps have been on the lake since the 40s. My husband and I grew up going to fishing camps and renting fishing camps on the lake. And this is a piece of St. Tammany Parish. We're not in a neighborhood. These fishing camps were here on Lakeview Drive, which was Rat's Nest Road, before the people started building homes out there. So I know that people are talking about trying to change the state of Lakeview Drive, but it actually was a bunch of fishing camps. This is a group of fishing camps, and we were there before. Secondly, even though our street is zoned residential, the point is at the end, which is actually commercial. There's mixed use. There's like townhomes all up and down our street. There's the company that does the pilings at the end of our street that uses Lakeview Drive. There's talking about putting a steak restaurant on Lakeview Drive. So even though we're zoned residential, we actually are a mixed-use road. So I kind of feel like it's not applicable to us. And let me see what else I want to say. But anyway, I'm not opposed to paying a license fee. I'm not opposed If I have a requirement that I have to be there to check people in, I'm not opposed to limiting that I can only have 8 people there. I feel like that I should have the ability to be grandfathered in because we have been there for 2 years. We have been paying parish taxes. We have been following the rules that we were given. And I think it'd be unfair for us to all of a sudden be told that we couldn't use this as short-term rental. We are not in a neighborhood, we're not in Eden Isles, we're not in the moorings. We are a fishing camp on the lake. The other side of our street, I think you could consider part of Eden Isles. They are on the canal with Eden Isles. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Tyra Cortez, Ms. Cortez, Ms. Tyra?
Hi, I'm
Good.
Tyra Cortez, and I am a property manager for 450 Eden Isles Boulevard. I want to clarify real quick that there was not a huge party on Saturday or Sunday for 4th of July. It was a family function. The cops were never called. But back to my point, as Emily stated, when your job is your passion, you never work a day in your life. Well, my job is my passion. And when there's a party that's going on at a property, I've shut down a wedding. I've shut down properties that are having parties in a matter of minutes between Treasure Isle, New Orleans, and Eden Isles. There is only one property by this family that has been called out and singled out in Eden Isles. They own one Airbnb. I want that stipulated right here. We do background checks. You have to be of a certain age, 25 or older, to rent. They cannot just come in there. We do background checks on them. I just moved to Eden Isles. I moved from a house off of Robert Road. My neighbor behind me smoked pot every single day. No matter where you go, there's going to be pot. No matter where you go, there's going to be crime. These people are not bringing crime. They're bringing money to our city, to our parish, to our restaurants, to our shopping malls, to our venues, to swamp tours. They're doing all of these things. I give them a list of things that they can and can't do. I send a text. I do guest concierge. The guests are checked in by me all the time. She's not my only property. I'm just speaking on all of them. I do guest concierge. They're checked in. I know how many people are there. Just today on the way here, a lady said, "Oh, I forgot to mention there's 3 extra people." Well, I'm sorry. They can't stay. You didn't list it. That's my rules. I'm the one in charge of these things. It's growing. Slidell, St. Tammany is a small town on the map. Airbnb, VRBO, we're bringing St. Tammany to the map by bringing these people to our city. It's bringing money to our city. It's not bringing crime, and I understand their concerns. I understand that they have these problems. Well, under proper management, things like that can be handled in a blink of an eye. I live right down the street from 450 Eden House, which is not rented proper, all the time. It's starting to pull up, but it wasn't. It just started. And she did do a lot of upgrades. She brought the value of her home up, along with all of her family members. 7 members of her family live in Eden Isles, and they are very well $1 million invested in Eden Isles. It's not just that. So the money is there, not just for the owners. And when they speak, oh, it's $600 a night, you're paying me as your property manager. I'm a single mom with 2 boys at home. I thrive for my job. And when there's a problem, I shut it down. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, sir, we don't, as I said, everybody was nice and quiet when you spoke. We'll do the same on the other side. Okay, thank you. Nadine DeJean. Nadine.
Hello, I'm Nadine Dijon, and I live at 125 Lakeview Drive. I am a short-term owner. I don't advertise. I started renting Ladies Quilting Club, Bee Social Club. I meet the people, I interact. I ask questions. I check out their references. I have one sign on my property, and I don't know other advertisement, okay? I handle everything personally myself. In 1947, my husband's aunt bought that lot in 1947. Because she was elderly, had never married, had no way to upkeep it, she sold it to us. She was getting older, so she sold it to my husband and I. And in 1984, we purchased the property. We purchased it because that was to be our retirement home. And of course, it was not rented. Katrina came along and took it. We were of an age that we weren't guaranteed anybody giving us a mortgage. In fact, when we applied for a small business loan, I told my husband, honey, we're too old. You know, who's going to lend us money? Well, the government did. And the Small Business Administration lent us a loan, for which we are still now paying. The purpose of the rentals were, at first I was very adamant about not doing it. Then I started meeting people, and I saw that they wanted to have fun. They love St. Tammany Parish, or they wanted to become part of it. They too, some of the things these people have said are exactly how I feel too. I love my people. I still maintain friendship with them. I have repeat customers. They know my rules. We have a 4-bedroom home. We have 16, it can sleep easily 16 people. We bought the extra lot next to us that was full of pilings that had come off of the damaged homes. We cleaned that up, we filled it up. Now we have twice as much parking as we did before. We have vacant lands on each side, and we have 2 neighbors, 2 gentlemen, who watch the property for us. They call if there's anything wrong. I have never had any complaints in all this time because I handle my business, okay? So this is Rat's Nest Road, okay? It's not the other areas that they're speaking of. It's 3 blocks, 3 blocks. We have 4 property owners there that rent. The income that comes from that.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, and I appreciate it. And please consider the positive part of all this.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate the time. Brent Leonard.
Good afternoon. Brent Leonard, 5413 Craig Avenue, Kennel, Louisiana. We have had a camp in Slidell since 1977, and we've gone through the challenges of hurricanes and everything else. We lost one to Hurricane George, extensive damage to Hurricane Katrina. We got lucky enough in 2010 to buy another one. We had looked all over, Mississippi, everywhere else, and there was just no place like Slidell. We wanted our kids to crab in the lake. We wanted to ski and tube in the lake, because there's nothing else like it. There just isn't. We are not truly residential. As we said, we are on the lake, which is, we have 300 to 400 feet on our left side that there is nothing. The next camp is over water. On the right side, we have about maybe 300 yards. There's nothing there because nobody wants to, or not a lot of folks, want to build on that side, because on that side is constant work. Every time there is a storm or a flood, there is damage. So you're out there with your kids, with your family, you're fixing stuff, it gets expensive. After Katrina, things got so expensive, as we all know, that you had to find a way to keep this property. And so we started to rent it out. And we rent it out, we meet the people before, we meet them after, we have extensive conversations about the rules. And there's nobody even adjacent to us. The only person near us is right behind us, and this poor guy's been building his house for about 4 years. It's all boarded up. You can go see it. And, you know, we don't make any noise about it. Do I want that across from us? Not really, but he's had some challenges and whatever. But we haven't had any issues. But when you do have people who come who are 10, 12, 14 people, no, you can't have that. Because this is also our home. I have 3 small boys. We just spent July 4th there. We had the whole family. It was probably 25, 35 people. But it's our home. These were our people. I have a large family, and it was wonderful. And I want to continue to do that. I don't know if we can continue to do that without this revenue. The place is not fancy. It is, you look at it and it's nothing to look at. It isn't. But it's a phenomenal place. I agree with my friends at Eden Isles and your challenges. There's some terrible stories there. But that is residential. Please keep in mind, you got Lemuel Construction on one side, you got the dock on the other. We're going to get a restaurant. We might get another restaurant. And we got somebody else trying to do something with the boat situation. We have multiple housing units. Support all of these things. But please, don't paint us with one brush. Please consider the separate area. Thank you.
Thank you. Gaynell, Leonard?
Good evening,
Good evening, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman and council members. My name is Gaynell Leonard, and I have a lake house at 229 Lakeview Drive. I'm speaking to you tonight on behalf of my husband, who was not able to be here tonight, and our family, who all participate in enjoying our property, as well as in the upkeep and the rental procedures. We purchased our property amongst the devastation of Katrina in 2010. We had much to repair and rebuild, but we felt it was worth it, as we have always loved having camps in this area and being on the water, especially on Lakeview Drive. This area was very unattractive due to Katrina, but gradually the piers and camps were rebuilt, and development on the canal side of the street was beginning to come back also. On purchasing our property, there was no mention of restrictions of any kind other than homeowners insurance, which especially in my case had very costly restrictions. Going forward, my husband and I enjoy our property while meeting the many expenses, the high taxes, insurance, and many storm repairs that, of course, as we all know, just keep reoccurring. We at that time decided that it was best if we could start doing some short-term rentals just to help us get through these expenses, because we did not want to lose our place. We regret the complaints that have been issued by a few of the people on the canal side of our street. We really do want to live in harmony with everyone. It's a very small area. The people in Eden Isles have a real complaint, and my heart goes out to them because they are a residential area. So basically, our issue is we are not considered a residential area if you look at the reality of the situation. My neighbors have our phone number, have always had our phone number, and if anything occurs, they know, they call me, and I handle it immediately. I greet the people on arrival, talk to them many times before they come, and when they leave, I'm there. And they know that respect to our neighborhood is of utmost importance. This area in Slidell remains unique, and we respectfully ask for us to be grandfathered or otherwise excluded from this ordinance. And we do appreciate the fact that our people who rent do spend their money in Slidell, and they leave praising Slidell for all it had to offer. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Kenneth Couture? Kenneth?
It's actually Keith.
Yes.
Good afternoon.
Thank
or
you.
evening
Thank
or
you.
morning, wherever we are. My name is Keith Couture. I'm an attorney in St. Tammany Parish and also a citizen, 1011 North Causeway Boulevard, Suite 9. Although I've been threatened already by several speakers, I'll keep to just the issues. The issues are that you're passing an ordinance, as Councilmember Stefanik said, that we hope to get passed before February 1st, where it goes into effect, and then we'll work it out. That's clearly not appropriate. What you have from 2019, which would solve a lot of the problems that most of the people are complaining about, is to amend Chapter 130 and to add the new section that was proposed by zoning back then of a new 130.164 legal non-conforming short-term rental.
If that would be added today and amended, you would have people who were grandfathered or who could come forward and say, we've been using our property and we would like to apply. For everyone who's concerned about it, if you read the ordinance that is proposed by Mr. Stefanik, which is very well done, but it leaves out those people that have been doing it correctly. By adding this amendment, not only do you allow them to come in, but they have to meet all of the qualifications. And one of the key qualifications is they have to apply and be of good character based on the administration's review. Obviously, the first thing the administration is going to review is, have you had 35 complaints of marijuana coming from your backyard? Have you had the police called 3 times over the weekend? Have you had multiple disturbances? Have you had multiple problems? Has the homeowners association complained to you, written letters? All of that is going to be put forth. At that point, if their application is denied, whether it's because of those complaints or some other reason, it would come back to this council. And at that time, everyone could come back and specifically address that homeowner, the person who is not doing the proper job. The people that you saw up here and the people I represent are doing the right thing. They are acting correctly and they are paying taxes. If you rent through Airbnb, this parish is getting the tax. The tax is being collected. If we're going to sit here and talk about this isn't legal to rent those things right now because it's not a permitted use, is the parish giving back all those taxes for the past 5, 10, 20 years that were illegally collected? I think not. Thank you very much, and I hope that you add this amendment.
Thank you, sir. Mike DeJean. Mike?
Hello, everyone.
Hello, sir.
My parents purchased this place from my great aunt in '84.
Just state your name
Michael
first.
Dejon, 125 Lakeview.
Thank you.
Me and my brothers were teenagers. We used to swim in this place before there was even sewage, public sewage. It used to just come out the bottom. Katrina came, well, we had to put in public sewage, you know, codes and all that. We put in a public sewage. Katrina came, wiped it out. We rebuilt it. We don't have short-term rental. We have friends that stay there. Some of our friends provided riffraff rocks, which helps the community, helps our neighbors. It stops the tidal surge. We provide oyster shells from another person that owns the cast net in New Orleans. They give us loads of oyster shells, which we shared with our neighbors to help prevent the erosion. We got fiberglass grating from a person that stays there that prevents storm surge from tearing up the wood, damaging neighbors' property. This fiberglass grating can withstand the tidal surge and the hurricanes. So we helping our neighbors in our community. Also, of course, they come, they go to Walmart, they go to Kenny's Seafood, they go to Southside Steakhouse, Menendorf's, Blind Tiger. They spend their money in the parish. We also had 3 other people that have moved to St. Tammany Parish from other parishes. We just love the place. Me and my brothers, we were raised there, and now my grandkids are there. 4th of July, we had 26 cars, all of them on our property, not a one on the street, not one car on the street. Our lot is 90 foot wide. The house is 100 feet from the street. We purchased the property next door. We got plenty parking. No one intrudes anyone. Don lives on one side. If he sees a leaky pipe, he's calling. He's never once called about bad tenants or anything like that staying. We help all our neighbors. Me and my brothers, my parents own a Bobcat. We help whenever we can. These people got it bad in Eden Isles. I can understand some of these horror stories. I wouldn't want that at my residence going on, all these parties and stuff. But Lakeview Drive, Rat Nest Road, that I've been visiting since I was a kid, raised there, crabbed there. work there, building this place is not that type of place. It's people coming to go fishing, to enjoy crabbing, enjoying the lake. That's all we doing out there. It ain't a party, frat house type environment on our people. All our people are nice, little clubs come out, and we just would like to continue doing that. If we need permits or whatever we need to do to comply with everything, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Gerald Williams? Okay. Thank you, sir. Spencer King?
Good evening. I'll be very brief as well.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I'm Spencer King. I'm an attorney. I represent some property owners in the Treasure Isle subdivision. As has been said previously, I mean, they purchased the property partially as an investment property to rent it out when they were not using it. They have a documented history of renting it out. They're registered with the St. Tammany Parish Sheriff's Office to pay taxes. Under those circumstances, just for the record, they wanted to, my clients want to note that they object to the ordinance as currently drafted and proposed because we believe it's an unconstitutional regulatory taking. We believe that it's depriving them of their vested property interests. And we do believe that in light of the St. Tammany Parish basically endorsing and allowing this short-term rental operations to go on for years and years, we believe that the parish is stopped from now trying to come back and wholesale ban this in residential areas. So for those reasons, respectfully, we'd request that you strongly consider tabling this at least for 30 days so they can reconsider, because there are certainly other ways that this, that all sides or a compromise can be reached. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sue Rondo? Sue?
My name is Sue Rondo. I live at 120 Everest Drive in Slidell. My Airbnb is my personal home. A member of this council wrote an email recently, and he said, I quote, "Homeowners very selfishly rent their homes out for huge profits at the expense of the families and full-time residents in their neighborhoods. This is not what I see as appropriate in a residential neighborhood." Now, my feeling is that this quote betrays a complete lack of understanding as to who we are and to what value we can be to the parish. I'd like to share my story about my Airbnb experience. I am a widow, and that is a word that is still hard for me to say. My husband's insurance expired just 11 days before he passed away from pancreatic cancer. I was left with nothing but my home, which I still owe a mortgage on. And after paying the mortgage and the utilities, I was left with $40 a week to live on from my Social Security. This was to pay for gas, food, and medicine. Fortunately, my daughter and her family invited me to stay with them, and that helped. But I didn't want to stay with my daughter permanently and have to depend on her, and I didn't want to leave my home that my husband and I had shared for so long. I prayed for a way to help me help myself, and I found out that God answered me and told me about Airbnb. I could remain in my home and allow others to rent it for several days at a time. I'm not selfish or greedy, and I care about my neighbors. The Airbnb income has permitted me to maintain and improve my home to community standards. Without that income, I couldn't even keep up my yard. And I feel that I do provide a valuable service for others. My home has been the place to stay for families who have come to be with a dying loved one and to attend a baby shower for a daughter who is having her first baby. A gentleman from Texas recently stayed in my home so that he could visit his daughter who lives with her mother just two houses down from me. This gave them an opportunity to spend time together without an impersonal hotel. And these are just some examples of the way the service to my guests, but more importantly, for families who are constituents in the community. So I would just beg you, don't allow me to go back to $40 a week to live on.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Ronald Provenzo, Ronald? Thank you, sir. Ann Dale, Ann Dale? Ann?
I wasn't going to speak, but I think I will.
You go ahead, ma'am.
My name is Ann Dale. My address is 218 Evella Drive in Slidell.
You need a minute.
That I also have a business here in Mandeville, Andale Jeweler. I have a camp. We call it the camp. It's a vacation rental by owner that we rent out to families, people who want to come out fishing and crabbing, as many of the people have said. And we meet our guest. I hate to use the word, we sort of, I want to say, not police, but go through a criteria before we rent to people. I've not had one complaint from anyone, my neighbors. They've actually enjoyed these people who have come to our VRBO. Many of them patronize all the businesses in the Slidell area. Some of them go into the swamp tours. We give them lists of places to visit. We encourage them through our own experiences here in St. Tammany Parish. And I think, the more money that is put into the parish, as I'm listening to these things that you all are voting on, park recreation, all these things, well, who's it going to be for? I mean, it's for us, but we want people to come to St. Tammany Parish. We want them to spend their money. We want them to see the wonderful things the parish has to offer. And I do understand that some of these people in some of these residential neighborhoods have a real gripe. I get it. If I had some of these things going on, I would be upset too. But then I listen to some people who have been doing this for years, and they talk about, just like my family, we would go to camps, go to what we call lake houses, camps, fish, and that sort of thing. It's a tradition. It's historical. There's not many of them left. I mean, that's what people come. They want to see. They want to experience Lake Pontchartrain. As if you think about in Lake Shore, I think they said there was only 4 left. That's it. And these people, including myself, we're up against a lot of challenges financially to maintain our camp, our VRBO, to keep it looking excellent, to keep peace, and to be in harmony with our neighbors. We work very hard. We, across the street of our vacation rental by owner, it's a camp falling in the water for I don't know how many years. Camps around or a house, it's a residential neighborhood, but they are used as family vacation homes. A lot of them are deplorable. They're in horrible condition, and people don't have the money to put it into it, and they're up against storms and things of that nature. So I would ask you to please consider, especially people who have been doing this for quite some time in certain areas.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Ronald Bernard.
Ronald Bernard, 206 City Lane, Eden Isles or Oak Harbor. I'm against short-term rentals. I bought this property in 1974 before they even had a street in, and I built in 2004. this is a residential neighborhood, this is not hotel business, and people shouldn't be allowed to rent their houses to people don't even know. Family members is one thing, but people you don't know is something else. And I'd like to ask all these board members here, how many, any of you have that short-term rent in your neighborhood? I'd like you to put your hand up and show me how many people have that in your neighborhood. 1, 2, that's it? Well, all I'm saying is this, and I tell you what, as far as Lake Pontchartrain goes, Redness Road, there's only one camp left in Lake Pontchartrain on the lake. The rest are on land now. So the business about Old Lake, there's only one house on Old Redness Road in the lake itself. The rest are all built on land now, and they're all built after Katrina, all but that one house. So I'm against it, and all my neighbors are against it, and I hope you consider that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thomas Meghar, Thomas? No, thank you, sir. Kate Zine, Kate? Is Kate? Fred Spalansky, Fred?
Hi, my name is Fred Spoliansky. I live at 2147 Water Oak, and I am not a lawyer. I am, however, the president of a newly found coalition of responsible hosts that we call CORE, C-O-R-H. While I'm new to Louisiana, I have adopted St. Tammany Parish, Slidell specifically, as my hometown, and where asked, where are you from, I proudly state Slidell, Louisiana. Being new to the area, I'm also new to the debate in this chamber. I founded CORE with my wife, Katie Shawn, also not a lawyer, a Slidell native, and a few of the other citizens in this chamber to acknowledge that some, and in fact many of the concerns this council is seeking to address with this ordinance are justified. Hence, the coalition of responsible hosts. Emphasis on responsibility both to our neighbors and to our community. We believe that a reasonable, fair, and enforceable ordinance is in the best interest of all parish residents. The problem with the ordinance that is now up for a vote is that it is neither fair, reasonable, nor enforceable. It's not fair because it places the constitutional rights of some citizens ahead of the rights of others, and it's also not fair because, contrary to the assertion of some, we really did not have enough opportunity to inform the process. It's not reasonable because it fails to address the desperately needed accommodations sought by over 70% of the visitors who wish to visit our amazing little part of the world. And it's not enforceable because the parish desperately lacks the resources to enforce it. Anybody driving down Iroquois or along any of the number of the streets in what could be the gem of the parish, the North Beach subdivision, know my words are true. Katrina wreckage, code violations still blight some of the most desirable real estate in the parish. That is why we have created CORE. We are publishing our core values and our core principles, values and principles to be adhered to by all members. CORE is to be advanced as an SRO, a self-regulatory organization. CORE's mission is to establish best practices, educate member hosts and guests, and enforce compliance by all entities seeking to operate as short-term rental anywhere in the parish and ultimately the municipalities. CORE membership would be required. CORE, in concert with a committee from this esteemed body, would be responsible for establishing all requirements for operating an STR in St. Tammany Parish. Council, this ordinance as written poses an existential threat to the future of tourism in St. Tammany Parish. No one comes here to stay at the Motel 6 or the Hampton Inn on I-10. Council, we're here to ask for a temporary stay on this vote. We're here to offer ourselves as team players ready to assist in forging a truly fair, truly reasonable, and truly enforceable ordinance that treats all citizens equally under the law. We've accomplished much in the 2 weeks that we have existed, and we ask for 30 more days to see if we can come to a more reasonable solution. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fred. I appreciate it. Thank you. Michael Dale? Michael?
It's Michael Dale, live in North Covington by the Abbey, and my wife stole my talk. So I'm going to improvise a little bit. There's 105 105,699 homes in St. Tammany Parish. Of that, according to Airbnb, 297 of them are short-term rentals. Airbnb runs about 70 to 80% of all short-term rentals. All the platforms overlap, but Airbnb is the biggest. They're bigger than the top 3 hotel chains in the world combined. If you take the 297, if you go by that number, it represents 0.002% of the houses in St. Tammany Parish. It's mathematically insignificant. I was at Manresa 3 days, and this had come up, so I kind of got obsessed and I started doing stuff I shouldn't have been doing. I went to the Airbnb site and I started drilling down on their filters. I found out there's 127 superhosts. That means these are homeowners who have 4.8 stars, 10 stays or more, and their response rate. There was 129 houses in St. Tammany Parish that had 10 stays or less. These are people who are just not participating. They may have made a listing, maybe their son said, hey, Dad, I want to put the garage up for Mardi Gras and see if I can make some money, and they never did anything. So they have 10 stays or less. They're not actively participating in this practice. 17 of them were apartments, which is commercial. 8 of them were bed and breakfasts, commercial. 5 boutique hotels, 5 campers, 3 castles, 2 boats, and a barn. My point is, there's 127 of us operating in this parish, which is minuscule. It's not worth this parish, this council's time, I believe. Most of them are on the water, which is historical, still structures, fishing villages, and a bunch of them are clustered around the hospitals. MD Anderson, they have a huge group of short-term rentals. When people are sick, family members need to get near the hospital. We just had a good friend, he had a heart transplant at Oshna. His family was able to stay at an Airbnb nearby so that they could stay there and have somewhat of a normality in their life without being disruptive. We got into this because my daughter graduated from LSU and my wife wanted to take her to Ireland for a vacation. The western part of Ireland doesn't have hotels. We had to stay at an Airbnb. I thought it was gross. I don't want to stay in somebody's house. I had the time of my life. I went to local pubs. We did sing-alongs. We embraced the local culture, and they embraced us. I told my wife, we got to do this at our camp. We got crawfish boils, we got crabs, we got fishing. We can show the world what we have to offer more than the Hampton Inn. Thank y'all for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Eric Lou?
Excuse me, before I start, Councilman, I think you had called a Katie or a Kate.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to.
Okay, I thought you said her name earlier, I'm sorry. Okay, well, my name is Eric Luco, 985 Bald Cypress in Mandeville. I'm the Director of Sales for Louisiana Seafood Exchange and the President of the Woodlands Property Owners Association. I sympathize with those who live near problem properties, but I'm here with other responsible hosts to present a solution to those problems. Those few bad operators were the catalyst for this ordinance. Event centers, party houses attempting to operate disguised as short-term rentals, but they're not actually vacation properties. Those mismanaged properties do not represent what a vacation rental should be. With 3 luxury waterfront properties that I personally manage, I have a very strict vetting of who stays at my properties and a thorough rental agreement that outlines what our house rules are. Along with other responsible hosts of vacation rentals, we're in favor of an ordinance that will work in the best interest of the residents of St. Tammany. We want to protect everyone's property rights, promote tourism, and work to remove properties from the booking platforms that have become a nuisance to their neighbors. This ordinance in its current format does not accomplish that, and the enforcement isn't there to make that happen. I've been a vocal part of this for over 2.5 years. I've attended the meetings. I've met with council members. I have a personal commitment from Donna O'Daniels with all the resources of the Tourist Commission, and I have the backing of Lieutenant Governor on this matter. In July of 2019, Planning and Zoning turned down a draft of the ordinance and suggested the council seek input from experts in the field. I was contacted by 2 council members regarding forming a committee to help develop a more comprehensive ordinance, but that idea stalled after one phone call to me from Councilman Stefanczyk, where I offered my time, energy, and knowledge to work within a committee to develop a worthwhile ordinance that would please both the operators and opponents of vacation rentals. To my knowledge, I don't know if that committee was ever formed. What I feel the council and those who generically oppose to vacation rentals don't realize is the amount of tourism that St. Tammany accounts for. We're the 4th largest tourism economy in the state. Lake Charles and Lafayette are behind us. We're ahead of them in tourism dollars. In 2019, 2.6 million guests visited this parish, and the economic impact was over $700 million just for that year alone. There are visitors that come for the day, obviously, but a very large number have overnight stays, and there's nowhere in St. Tammany Parish for any luxury accommodations or resorts, none. There's not one single waterfront hotel, resort, or lodging anywhere along the entire perimeter of Lake Pontchartrain. For this reason, visitors book vacation homes. The vacation homes are in residential areas. If this ordinance passes as written, it sends a clear message to tourists that they aren't welcome here. This ordinance is a directive that will kill tourism, and the study published by the Tourism Commission says that loss of revenue would be a direct hit to the residents of about $1,100 a year in tax increases. To address, design, and execute the implementation of a comprehensive vacation rental ordinance, we formed a coalition of responsible hosts and are simply requesting that the parish follow the suggestion of planning and zoning from 2 years ago and allow us to work, albeit quickly, to develop a fair and thorough revision of the proposed ordinance that can be put in place to coincide with the intended timeline of a February execution. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Katie?
Good evening. I am Katie Shawn Spiliansky. I am the Executive Director and Co-Founder of CORE, the Coalition for Responsible Hosts. And what we would like to do is respond to these problems and come up with a good solution. The challenges that our community is facing are extreme, and we would like to help enforce the existing laws and ordinances. Our purpose is threefold: to establish, to educate, and to enforce. To establish a standardized set of best practices for homeowners who wish to rent their homes to vacationing family, friends, and travelers. To educate the member host and their guests on how to better adhere to our community standards. And to enforce compliance with all existing laws, ordinances, core values, and core principles. The majority of the issues we've been discussing have already been covered and are covered by existing laws and ordinances, but they're not being enforced. One of the main complaints that the neighbors had at the last meeting was why are existing ordinances not being enforced? Well, that's where we would come in. We would propose that every vacation rental host be required to apply for a parish license in order to operate in St. Tammany Parish. All permit holders would have to ensure that they would follow federal housing maximum occupancy rules, to ensure no more vehicles can be reasonably parked, to ensure that all homes carry adequate and appropriate insurance to protect neighborhood values, require all short-term rentals to install proper surveillance equipment, monitoring and noise level alarms, so that when things do go wrong, there is footage and you can tell the cops and you can get action. To educate the guests as to very specific quiet hours, the speed limits on the local streets, trash collection days, emergency procedures. Guests will be reminded of the golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Once we establish the irresponsible owners, then we can end their ability to disturb the peace of our community. While I know we can never, ever please everyone, we can get rid of the bad apples, increase the peace in our parish, and preserve our tradition of wonderful Southern hospitality. We would love to be part of the solution. We would put our agency together to serve and work with the parish to do the enforcement as a self-regulatory agency.
Thank you, ma'am.
Oh, here is a sample of just some of the equipment and the stuff we started making.
Sure. Evan Bloche. Evan?
My name's Evan Ploche. I represent various owners of short-term rentals in St. Tammany Parish, and I'm going to confine my comments to legal-related issues mostly because I only have 3 minutes to talk on a subject that could take hours to discuss. But let me just say this, and I think the council needs to be aware of this. And I said this back in 2018. The ordinance that is being proposed is not a regulatory ordinance. The ordinance that is being proposed is a flat-out ban on vacation rentals in St. Tammany Parish, drafted by Councilman Stefanik. We discussed this in 2018. We made proposals to him in 2018. I gave him a list of things that we proposed back then that would work, that we would be comfortable with. He completely ignored all of it, okay? So what you're voting on is a regulatory ban on vacation rentals in St. Tammany Parish. If you pass this ordinance, that's what will happen. Not a single short-term rental or vacation rental property in this parish will be able to operate. As you all know, Many of these properties have existed for decades. Lakeview Drive was a vacation rental fishing camp area before residential residents moved in there to make the area their homes, okay? These things were operated as short-term rentals, vacation rentals, going back for decades. My grandparents rented property in Covington back in the early 1900s as a vacation rental area on the water in that area. In fact, much of St. Tammany was founded as a vacation area for New Orleans. That's how this area started. So to sit here and say that it makes sense to ban all vacation rentals in St. Tammany Parish, which, by the way, in my calculation, probably estimated trickle-down economic value to St. Tammany Parish, probably $30 to $40 million directly related to people who stay in the short-term rentals that exist in St. Tammany Parish. So I'm urging you, as a lawyer at this point, to let us work with the council, with maybe a committee of the council that can look at this issue rationally, give us some time, maybe 30 days or 60 days, to come up with something that will work, that will allow for regulatory permitting of short-term rentals. Don't ban them, which is what this ordinance is going to do, because not one short-term rental can operate under the proposed ordinance that characterizes them as hotels. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Stephanie Giamola? Stephanie?
Hi, my name is Stephanie Giamola. I don't do a lot of public speaking, but I live at 3561 City Drive, Slidell, Louisiana, 70458, and I'm a proud member of the Corps. I am a host, well, I'm actually a property manager for 8 properties, all of which are owned by my family. We have, try not to get emotional, I'm sorry. We all put in so much to this, myself, my children, my parents. This isn't about money for us. We have flipped properties my whole life. It's all I know. And we've done this together, sweat, blood, and tears together. And finally, we have a thing where we can incorporate other people into our family. This is not about money for us. We could easily flip properties. We could easily keep hosting long-term rentals, which only destroy our properties in the long run. We are very strict. We are family-oriented. We do not tolerate any kind of craziness. We stick by our values to show our children, who are with me today, we work hard, very, very hard. And I know that there's a lot of people, and emails especially, that have problems. My heart goes out to all of you. It's unfair, and the hosts, I feel, are ultimately responsible for these problems and these issues, and they should be held responsible. Now, the responsible hosts that we are, we do this because it's our way of life. I mean, we could easily have long-term rentals. We could easily flip properties. We could easily, I ran a multi-million-dollar cosmetic line. I left that to join my family. I left that to be with my children. We work side by side every single day together, and I'm proud of what we do. So with everything that's being said, I come to you as a member of Slidell, born and raised, and just say that please take all of this into consideration and see us all separately and individually and hold us each accountable and responsible for what we do and what we don't do. That's all we're asking. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Melissa Mercy Reed? Yeah, that's pretty close. I don't know. Yes, ma'am. Come on up.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I'm Melissa Misselli Reed. I'm actually here with, they're going to be very embarrassed, my son and his friends for Boy Scouts. This is part of one of their things they have to do to earn an Eagle Merit badge. So now I'm going to embarrass them by talking. So I want them to see the whole process. And one of that is, how do we feel about things? So because I'm not very active in the community, I live at 61303 Brittany Drive in Briar Lake. A lot of this is new, so that's problem one. I'm not really active in the community, so hearing a lot of things do make me a little concerned. So some of the things that I hear regulation, accountability, transparency. That seems to keep coming up, those things. One thing that bothered me was the insignificant number. I mean, insignificant if you don't live next to them. Significant when you live next to them. So there definitely is a difference, and you really need to take that in consideration. You know, you hear about the lakefront properties that are not near anybody. Yes, I've rented them. They're great. I live in Briar Lake. Let me tell you, I would have a huge problem if there were short-term rental properties next to me. I have boys. We just heard about the rape that happened on the Trace, the 64-year-old woman. And we know about the blighted properties with all those individuals. Now imagine you don't know who's next to you. So that is an issue. So when we talk about these things, transparency, first of all, I think before homeowners are allowed to rent their house out, it should go to the HOA board, be presented to the members that live in that community, so then they collectively can make a decision, Eden Niles, should we allow that in Eden Niles? And if the HOA comes back and their community members vote no, it should be no. If you live far away on your own property, then sure. So my things are regulation, you know, that needs to be spelled out. And for transparency, it needs to be brought at a different method to the local public. People don't participate in these meetings, me. They don't read the newspaper, me. So how are you gonna reach the me's? Because what's gonna happen is when you make those decisions, we're gonna be upset because a decision was made without our opinion, because we're not giving it, because we're not getting it. So I think before you even propose anything, first you need to take a look at how are you reaching your constituents? How are you reaching your public? Because that needs to change. We're not informing people the way we should. Things are changing. The internet's changing. So I think before a resolution's made, first think about who you're supposed to reach and reach them first. So regulation, we have a lot of committees and there's a lot of volunteers. Take it up. Accountability, how are you gonna make those people accountable? And I think for transparency, let's post it. Thank you, bye.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, members of the council, that's the last card that I have. I see no one wishing to speak on this subject. Is that what I'm seeing?
On the door, but I wanted to yield to Mr. Stefanczyk first. So I've been just parlaying here and waiting for him to punch his name up.
Would you like to go last?
Yes.
Or would you like to go first?
No, I'd like to go last.
All right, thank you, sir. Thank you. Mr. Toledano.
I can. And
Mr. Toledano.
yes, sir. Thank you. I was trying to be honor my fellow councilman by letting him go first. And it didn't work. That's the observation my advisor to the right says. First thing, let me just say this to you. I did not participate in this committee. However, I would be remiss if I did not congratulate Mr. Stefanczyk and the group that put together this ordinance. It is very apparent to me as a lawyer, much well as a councilman, that they spent a heck of a lot of time doing this with a lot of thought, and they are to be congratulated for the effort that they have extended to you and the citizenry who are either for or against it. So I would be unfair if I did not say that. And it's a very difficult issue because it's a balancing of rights, including property rights, individual property rights versus a community that is deserving of living in peace and tranquility. So I only had a chance to review the final thing in the last couple of days, but I'm going to just speak sensibly from a logic standpoint. I live in a single-family residential area. I do not want and would not allow and would not stand for a commercial endeavor in my community where I live. It is totally incongruent to what single family means. So I start with the basic premise that if your property is owned single family, They're not kidding about that, and you should use your property as a single-family residence. So how do we work through that issue? Because there is certain property rights involved. Mr. Couture made mention to some of it. And I say to you that there's a great difference between Miss Dale and the other very nice lady in the back, Sue, pardon me, I forget her last name. There's a great difference between how they presented themselves to use their property for short-term rentals as a single-family residence versus some of the pictures that just passed before me that said those people are using their house for a party house because they can make more money off of it. So I draw the line between Harry, who uses his property and he rents it to 20 people getting off of a damn bus. That's the most absurd thing I've ever heard of. It's an insult to anybody's intelligence to say, hey, this guy's a single family residence. And someone like Miss Dale, if I got her name straight, who's using it to rent to a family to come to her house to maybe spend time on Lake Pontchartrain or New Orleans. So I raised this question to my brothers and sisters up here. Under Section 10, at the end of the ordinance, specifically Section 132.213, it states auctions, weddings, receptions, bingo activities, fundraising events, banquets, luncheons, seminars, conferences, amplified outdoor music, outdoor karaoke, festivals, and commercial functions. I want to make sure Steve and the people that participated in this are confident that includes party houses. Because to me, at the end of the day, that's what we're really talking about. If I rent my house to Mr. Davis for the weekend for he and his wife and family to come enjoy, I don't think anybody's going to make a big stink about that. But if I rent it to Mr. Davis, who's a person interposed to have a big damn party at his house with 20, 30, 40, 50 people, whether they smoking dope or they smoking whatever, cigars, if they're invading my neighborhood to have a big party, that is fundamentally wrong. And I know Mr. Stefanczyk was sensitive to that in this ordinance. So I just want to make sure that the people who worked on this, many hours that they spent on it, that Section 10 includes party houses, because therein lies where this is abused. This is where, if we clear all the smoke away from this discussion tonight, it's the obnoxious users of those houses. Somebody gets off and unloads 20 people next to my house out of a van. I'm going to wear them out till I get them out of my neighborhood. And you can bet your life on that. Much different than if Mr. Davis comes with his family. Hell, I won't even know he's here. But the answer to the question is, we got to make sure this ordinance, I'm raising this question to the people who worked on it, that you all confidently have party houses covered by this. Because if we don't, somebody is going to play a game and say, wait a second, I'm just one person, I rented it, I can have a party, show me in your ordinance where that's not allowed. So, and if I missed it, it's possible that I missed it. So my thought is this: short-term rentals, and this ordinance, well-crafted that it is, I think is fine, as long as it prohibits what I would just define as a party house, because that's not the intent, and it goes against the basic use in that neighborhood of a single-family residence. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Tolentino. Mr. Mike Smith?
Okay. We've been like kicking the can on this for 2 years because we have wrestled with it and wrestled with it and wrestled with it, trying to be fair to all sides. And we have come to the conclusion that it's impossible to be fair to all sides. It is impossible. It depends on your perspective. Okay. Our lawyers have worked very long and hard to draft a resolution that they think will stand up in court, and one that has been applied effectively in other cities that has eliminated some of these problems and provided a standardized system for people to operate these types of businesses. Okay. I was a small business owner myself, and I worked out of my house a great deal. But all of my business activities were somewhere way away from the house. Basically, I was doing paperwork at the house, pretty much. Okay. I don't think there's a single councilman and councilwoman on this council that doesn't have these short-term rentals operating, whether they're advertised in VRBO or not, or Airbnb or not. Okay. It's no different than, and I'd say this to the people operating the businesses. I think the people that are here advocating for short-term rentals, they're not the problem. If everyone was you, then we'd probably be in good shape. That's not the case. The idea that the people, and we've had, this is a fraction of the complaints that we've had, a tiny fraction. And we have been gathering information for a long time. There have been multiple times for people to give us input. And they have been pretty free about giving us input, both for this and against this, and how they'd like to see it modified. This is kind of a starting point, but it is an important starting point because it's like the Wild West out there right now. There are people who are abusing this system, and it's in areas that aren't really designed for it. We work pretty hard to figure out how to put businesses in areas where they have the infrastructure to handle the traffic and handle the people in and out with a minimum of disruption. And residences are not really made for that. They're just not. Okay, so I have in my district one guy that's running an auto repair business out of his house, basically. It's not designed for that. Okay, the neighborhood is not. There's another guy about 1.5 miles away doing a boat repair business. There's one guy doing a landscaping business. There's somebody running a daycare. So the people that are running the short-term rentals, if you had somebody next door to you that was running the auto repair business, you probably would not be very happy about that, and you would like for us to do something about it. Okay, I think it's great that you guys have a voluntary organization, and I hope it's effective once we start getting some regulation in modifying the behavior so that eventually we do have a legal and standardized system. But this is a first step, and we need to take this first step. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Councilman Nair?
Yeah, one of the things, I mean, just that strikes me from listening to this and reading all the emails is you're asking for short-term transient use of a property in residential zoning. And I just don't understand how people can come in and say, well, we're going to do this, and everybody else needs to change your zoning in your neighborhood to allow us to do this. I mean, when you bought into your neighborhood, you know, I can't imagine having one of these next door to my house where we're on the water and having a different group of people coming in every other day or every weekend. And I guess that to me, some of the things that kind of struck me in these emails is, you know, the emails that I received from those that operate, and that's their term, not mine, they operate these short-term rentals, not a house that I live in that I rent a room out to somebody or something like that. They're operating a business. They also talked about, these are people, we market to people that would otherwise be staying in a hotel. We talked about guest concierge, checking in, checking out people, shutting someone down if they're having parties. I mean, that sounds like a hotel to me. That doesn't sound like, a house that I would expect to be living next to if I bought in a residential neighborhood, especially residential neighborhoods like Eden Isles where the houses are so close to one another. And yeah, maybe people do come in and visit, but most people work there. They live there, or maybe they're retired, but this isn't an area where you would expect that people are coming in and having these huge party buses that show up and dropping 20 people off. I mean, 20 people in a house that's not designed for that just causes problems for the sewer, the water, everything else, because the infrastructure is not designed to do that. Because if you're going to have that kind of turnover, that number of people, well, then guess what? There's things called hotels and zoning districts where they're allowed already, and you can do that. Also, in one of the past meetings, I understand some people may have just been clued into this process, but there's been multiple public meetings on this. We introduced this in April. We referred it to, at the next council meeting, and we had one person show up, I think, and talked in favor of it. We referred it to the planning and zoning. We had a full hearing there. We introduced this on the 30th. Nobody came and talked about this. And now we're having it up for adoption. I mean, on one hand, somebody's saying, well, you waited too long to do anything, so too bad. And then on the other hand, people are saying, don't do anything because we want more time to do it. I think the time to act is now on this. I think there's enough within these zoning classifications that if your property is susceptible to this and the neighbors aren't going to complain about it and you can do it. I mean, one of these emails I got, somebody built a seaplane landing zone on a residentially zoned property to fly people in and out of it. I mean, if that doesn't, maybe that to me is crazy. Maybe that's normal. I don't know. I just think that, we've gotten to the point where there are specific zoning classifications, a rural overlay, where this would be allowed, where you can operate within it. If that's what your property is, you can meet the requirements. If you can meet the requirements under this ordinance, then you can operate. And one of the other meetings, I know some people talked about, going to Florida and renting in Florida. Well, I don't know if you followed anything in the Florida legislature, but they're having a huge battle over this right now. And there are a lot of cities in Florida, like in the Florida Keys, that regulate. Tavernier, Florida is in the Florida Keys. It's a minimum 28-day rental. Right now, the Florida League of Cities did a big marketing piece or position paper for the cities that they represent, asking to be able to, the legislature there took away their ability to regulate these short-term rentals, asking for it back because of all the issues that it's causing. So I just, a lot of this has happened, the big joke, Al Gore hadn't invented the internet in 1900 when some of these things happened, but I would be willing to bet that those weren't, when people were coming here and renting from New Orleans to escape yellow fever or whatever, they were doing that on a summer basis. They were renting out for the whole time. They weren't renting, walking into somebody's house, hey, I'm going to rent your house for 2 days and leaving, and somebody else coming up in a horse-drawn wagon, I'm going to rent your house for 2 days. That really didn't exist. It's really when the internet has taken off, and that's one of the reasons why this is really coming to the head, and something needs to be done about it. And New York City, same thing, 30-day minimum rental on that. So I think we've debated over this long enough. We've written an ordinance it's kind of patterned after some other cities that have done this, and I think there's a way for people that if they have the properties that are susceptible to this type of use, they can make it work. So I would just urge that we not delay on this, that we pass this. And look, if there's something that needs to be tweaked on this, and I think that's what Mr. Stefanczyk said, I'm open to looking at, to working with. I know some of these groups have just gotten formed. I'm open to looking at that. And maybe there's a way to satisfy some people, but we need to act now. We can't let another day go on and another person, want to claim somehow that they've gotten a home office permit and somehow that allows them to rent out, a short-term rental. And because I know my wife, we'd love to run her law office out of our house. I'm sure Mr. Jerry wouldn't like it because he lives about 5 houses down from me, but it certainly would save a lot of money on it. But, that's not, it's not a use that we're allowed to do. So I just would urge that we would adopt this and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Jake. Mr. Bender.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Some days I think crazy is the new normal. Some days, but not very often in St. Tammany Parish. I think there's a lot of reasons why people move here. We have a lot of people who have lived here their whole lives. They were born and raised here. My wife and I moved here 45 years ago, and we raised all of our children here. I was on the Slidell City Council and had been on the Parish Council. I just want to say this much. One of the most difficult things for council members, whether you're a city councilman or town alderman or a parish council member, or code enforcement issues. Believe me, that is one of the most difficult. Now, I say code enforcement because code enforcement is during the day, 8 to 4:30, 5 o'clock, Monday through Friday. Nighttime is the police, weekends is the police or the sheriff's department, but it's still many times a code enforcement issue. See, we have laws in place. Noise, we have a law in place, so do the cities. Time of the night, we have laws in place, so do the cities. Single-family residential, we have laws that say how many families you can have living in there. It's single family. You know, there's a difference between a relative having to come and live with you because of a tragedy or a hospitalization in their family, and obviously everybody's sympathetic to that. The difference is, and I'm not referring to the good people in this audience who are trying to run their businesses properly. I want to be clear about that. But the difference is they're not going to bother anybody. It's an unusual circumstance. My concern is and I have about 10% of the acknowledgements that Harry has, the other 90%, the largest portion. I have 90% of Oak Harbor, he has about 10% of it. A lot of water property. That's where we're having problems. And, hey, it's a problem. And unfortunately, the good sometimes suffer because of the bad. We'll just have to work our way through it. Thank you.
Mr. Bender, I just want to say thank you.
Oh. Mr. Chairman, let me thank you. Let me thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Where's Chris? Okay, I just want to say mine. I don't see anybody, and then legal and Steve wants to close. Everyone up here has short-term rentals, as somebody said, and they're absolutely correct. I forget what meeting it was a few years ago. I said I wasn't for short-term rentals in the residential community. I left. A lady living in Beauchene called me the next day and asked me to come over to her house, so I went. And she showed me her short-term rental. It was a bedroom in her house that her husband passed away, and she was renting that bedroom, and she watched every person coming in. She monitored every person coming in, and it made me think again, do we lump everybody in one basket? That's the hard part that we sit up here tonight with. So I just wanted to say that for a minute. Mr. Fred, would you come back up for a minute, sir? I wrote something down that you said that I need a little bit more explanation on.
Yes, sir, thank you.
What is the definition or the group that you're formed or going to form or said you formed?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It is really it's structured after many of the already existing SROs or self-regulatory organizations. A self-regulatory organization is an entity such as a non-governmental organization which has the power to create and enforce standalone industry and professional regulations and standards on its own. In the case of financial SROs such as the stock exchange, priorities to protect investors, et cetera. Some of the key takeaways are an SRO is one that has the power to set industry standards and regulations through its own efforts. Effective SROs are able to provide standards and enforcement of those standards on their members. Although SROs can be privately owned, the government can still dictate their broader policies, et cetera.
I have the picture there. Let me ask you a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
How would you get me to belong to that?
Well, sir, once again, I think one of the key issues there is that this council would have to grant us that authority. Ideally, what happens is that we create the parameters under which we wish to operate, and then basically we are effectively deputized by the council to actively pursue those restrictions, et cetera.
Okay. And enforcement would come back to the council?
Enforcement really starts with us. It starts with us because what happens, sir, is that we're talking about a licensing process. We're talking about a process that includes education. So there would be an education component, much like the National Board of Realtors. You cannot come here and decide you're going to start selling houses without first complying with certain standards, being licensed, registered, and then effectively being held to accountability for your behavior.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I just want to say one other thing, and I'm finished. I agree, Mr. Stefansik's been working on this a long time. We've all been working on this and attended many, many meetings, and I just want to say thank you, Steve, for the effort that you put into this, and I appreciate it. But as I sit here, once again, kind of fall back into another meeting where you have two issues and you try to figure out this issue. And one thing that scares me a little bit is that if we pass this tonight, the way it's written, it would end, from what I'm hearing, short-term rentals in St. Tammany Parish, okay? So if that's what we want to do, fine, that's okay. But the good news is, if we pass this tonight, it does not go into effect until February or March, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, February 1st. So we have a few months where we can try to do something. So here, this is just me speaking to you, Mr. Fred. My suggestion is I'm offering my time to meet with whoever we need to meet with, to try to listen to what you said, because I can't comprehend it all in one night, and I know how long Mr. Stefansik has been working on this issue. But I know there's give and take on both sides, but I don't know how to get there yet, and I don't know if we can get there yet. But I'm willing to sit down with your group and have you all hammer this out, because you have a number of months to do this. I understand exactly what you're asking, but it's not going into effect at the next meeting, okay? So you have an opportunity to put something together. I can bring it back to my colleagues up there. They can look at it. And then if we want to make a change or an amendment, whatever the case may be, we can do that. So that's my suggestion. That's my offer. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sir, I really thank you very much for that. It's an excellent and generous offer. I would like to add possibly that if we could have both some of our opponents as well present at the table, I think we really want a truly ecumenical meeting, at which point we can hash out all of our concerns.
That is going to be your job.
Thank you, sir.
And you're going to let me know when the meeting is held.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I'm finished. Miss Emily, you wanted to say something?
Just very briefly, I just wanted to give a little bit of procedural history. This ordinance was introduced at the April 1st council meeting. It has since been referred to the zoning commission. The zoning commission took this up at their June zoning commission meeting. The zoning commission did recommend passage of this ordinance to the full council, but they did make 2 amendments, none of which are substantive, but the amendments are not in your packet because you had already introduced this in the form it's in tonight. So I just wanted to be sure that you all have seen the amendments recommended by the zoning commission. I sent those in an email earlier this week. I can just point them out to you very quickly. In the title of the ordinance, in the 4th line from the bottom, after mixed-use zoning districts, the zoning commission voted to amend that to add "and properties with a rural overlay," and then comma within unincorporated St. Tammany Parish. And then in the 8th whereas section, which would be the third whereas from the bottom. It says, whereas short-term rentals are more compatible with mixed use and commercially zoned districts where residential and commercial uses are allowed to coexist. The zoning commission voted to recommend adding after the word coexist or in rural overlay areas, semicolon. That's all I needed to add. But unless you all vote to adopt those amendments tonight, what you currently have in front of you without that added language is what has already been introduced.
Okay. So do we wish, Mr. Stefancic, I'm going to go to you, sir.
To answer that or my comments?
Both.
Well, I think I've been told by legal counsel and also advice from our administrator and Terry Hand, who's not here tonight, that it's not going to make a difference if that's in there or not. At least that's what I've been told. Now, we'll look at that and continue to look at it and see. But I've been told that it won't change anything that the ordinance the way it is. And I see Emily shaking her head, so I assume that that's the case we're in. I just wanted to, and I'll wrap this up with my comments saying, you know, I never thought too much about short-term rentals until one night I drove into my subdivision, and I live on Royal Golf Course in Slidell. And I didn't think much about it until I drove in and I couldn't get past this house. They had it blocked with cars going both ways, and there was about 6 inches of space in that if you wanted to try and get your car through, that's what you had to do. And so I went, and I had a lot of people call me the next day and raise all kinds of heck with me. Well, turns out that I went down to pay the guy a visit, and he said, well, I'm doing short-term rentals because I bought another house somewhere, and I need to put this one up for rent until I can sell it. And then later on, I found out that there was another one in my subdivision. Now, that's pretty far away from the lake and all the other things, and I could understand some of them. And then I don't know how many of you know where Bel Air is, but Bel Air had 2 rentals in there. And I'm saying, wait a minute, you know, this thing is going places where I never dreamed that it would. So that's when I started talking about short-term rentals and having some control over whatever we're going to do with them. At the time I did, I looked up and there were over 500 of them in St. Tammany Parish. And I think, you know, that may be a small amount, it may be a large amount, but I think right now it's probably exceeding that. That's my best guess, is that as this keeps going, more and more people are putting in short-term rentals. And these places rent anywhere from $80 a night to about, well, over $600. And so there's a wide disparity between the numbers that they rent for. And if you're renting one at $600 a night, you can pay for that house pretty dang quick like. If you're renting it at $80 a night, you got a problem making that kind of a payment or you know, paying for that house. Some of the people that I've dealt with have no problems. They have short-term rentals next door to them. They have no problems. They say, well, the people have done a really good job, and we need to look at, you know, those people we have no problem with. Well, when we put together the ordinance that we got here tonight, we said, all right, let's see how we can make that a difference. Well, boy, that's a tough thing to do. And you can sit there and think about it, and those of you that own them, try to understand that if you think everybody that owns one does a good job, you're crazier than hell. That's really what it boils down to, okay? And so I've gotten those calls at 3 o'clock in the morning, and people say, you need to come, they call me and say, you need to come down here and stop this. And some of the times it ain't even my district, you know, so.
That's because I give them your number.
Yeah, I think other people, they can look it up, and I must be one of the ones that they notice on there. So I don't know that, let me see what I got here. I didn't, and by the way, the one lawyer said something, and I did not say pass it and then straighten it out. I said put it down and make it effective for February 2nd, which gives us time to work the things. I didn't say just pass it and let it go, because we know and we look at this ordinance and we know there's going to be a lot of problems. And so we got 6-7 months to work those things out before we start enforcing this type of an ordinance. But it's putting everybody on notice that we're going to go forth with some kind of an ordinance. And I would tell you this, if we don't do something, then somebody else up here at this table is going to have to spend the next 3 years working on something that ain't going to work either. So I just, I want to make sure we understand that we're trying to get something to the public so that we can work with the public. If you sent us notes, or actually if you attended one of the 2 meetings we had, we have those notes, and we reviewed those notes, and we notice what people have said in there. So I would suggest to you that we have, if you have any comments, any concerns with this, put them down on paper and send them to our staff. And Carlin, who is walking past the backside back there, needs to send them to her. And if, I'm sitting here looking at my notes. The fee money that we have put into this thing is going to be used for it's my understanding is what we started with, is going to be used for an after-hours type code enforcement person who can go out after the normal schedule that our people work and go out and resolve and cite primarily code enforcement violations of this ordinance. So with that in mind, I want to once again thank everybody that helped on this. I would tell you that Jake did as much as anybody on this, and it's good to have a lawyer, except that I had an awful lot of them. It's good to have a lawyer on your team, and he did a fantastic job. Carlin, our administrator, gave us good advice, and so did Terry Hand, Emily, and Alec, and those people that wrote the thing. They actually wrote it because we gave them our ideas, and then we'd tell them when to change something, and they would change it, but they did it. And they spent the last 6 months writing this ordinance and getting it ready for tonight. And so I'm going to ask the council to prove it and to get it on the books. And if this thing fails, then take it off and get rid of it, and don't bring short-term rentals up again. But I would think that we've got something that we can work with, and my suggestion is give us any comments you have, and we'll try and work them in, work them out, or sit down with you and let you know why we can or can't do something about it. So thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me to wrap it up.
Thank you, Mr. Stefanczyk. So I would assume you'll make a motion for this to go.
I would move to approve this.
Okay, and we have a motion by Mr. Stefanczyk and a second by Mr. Smith. But before we vote, I want to let Miss Emily clarify something. And before she does, any council member that wishes to join me and meet with the people and try to work this out, please let me know. And the more the merrier. So, and we'll use the council chamber. But
Not
anyway,
over 7.
anyway. Miss Emily?
Yes, I just wanted to clarify for the council that short-term rentals are currently not a permitted use in St. Tammany Parish. So when we say the February 1st, 2022 deadline, that's to start the permitting process to allow people to apply for permits for short-term rentals in certain zoning districts, which would be zoning districts NC3 through NC6, the highway commercial districts, and TNDs. I just wanted to make sure that the council was clear on what that February 1st date meant.
Thank you, Miss Emily. Thank you, Miss Emily. I appreciate it. Also, Mr. Davis just hit the button. Mr. Davis.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Lorino. Being on the planning and zoning for many years previously before this position, it is land use. I mean, that's what we're talking about when it comes down to it. You know, we talk about single-family home residents, and we talk about A1, A2, A3, and A4, but it's a resident. A residence is for a resident to be there for this family and such. Now, we talk about all this short-term rentals and stuff like that, and it can be perceived as being a commercial business. And the easiest thing to do, obviously, with this great ordinance put together by Mr. Stefanczyk, is that even if it stayed the way it was now with this ordinance and it doesn't change in any way, it clearly states that if you want to have a short-term residence after this point, you come back to the planning and zoning and you ask for a zoning change. And the zoning change, if I'm correct, is NC3 would be the minimum, which would be neighborhood commercial 3. So there may be areas in which it is appropriate to have a short-term rental. That's if the ordinance stays as it is now. Now, obviously, we have this gentleman up here with his group and start talking about things, and maybe we can dive down deeper into about how many people can stay in the house per bedroom and that kind of stuff and all. These are things. But again, it's got to be uniform for everybody. It just can't, it has to be a blanket, and that's what we're trying to do up here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jimmy. Seeing no one else, we had a motion and a second on the floor. Please vote.
The motion is unanimous with one absent.
Motion by Mr. Fitzgerald, second by Mr. Davis to adjourn.